Yo, Robbo, I have never seen Robbo rank so excited. I mean, you know, he's got Ron Barnes on, and I went around his house on Monday, and it's just been like pure excitement. He's got his shirt on, the video is, yeah, John Barnes, and what's going on, Robbo?
Well, contrary to what your little slight dig there, it's because let me start from the top. I am so proud. I'm so proud of you, Ernie. I'm so proud of what you've done in such a short space of time. When people said, Daddy Ernie, I'll go and drink down at his birthday bash. You know, you've done so much amazing things. You've not
Don't
only
try and switch.
No, I'm coming. Let me land the plane. You've not only created.
We're waiting.
Hold on. You not only created a wonderful platform that so many people stop and say, it's amazing. Well done. I love the show. You also went.
Well, it's two of us. It's not only me. It's
on
both
Wednesday.
Of us.
Was it? No. Listen, let me land the big jumbo jet. You also went and done your diligent work and put a blue plaque up in Trinity Gardens, Choice FM, the most famous, the infamous black music station that launched so many people's career, not only in the UK, but in Jamaica and America. And you finally put the plaque up. So well done. I'm proud of you. But let me just say, I am proud of the Fixture List. And we're live.
And is that a new shirt you got, Robbo?
No, this is vintage. This is old school. Well, it's not old school. It's an old shirt. But
okay,
I thought you were going to put on like your 1968, you know, European Cup winning shirt on, or one of your Stanley Matthews special. I know you go old school, so I just decided to go old school. I know it looks new.
You know the problem with them ones, Robbo? Although I've lost weight, they can't fit because that was like 50 years ago. They just can't fit. I've been trying. What happened is that the tailor's not open, right? So I can't get him to take it out so they can fit. But maybe next week when we got Andy on, maybe we'll get one to fit then. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
People, I'm also so proud of Daddy Ernie. Now I'm getting free gifts. I want to say shouts going out to my neighbor Chat, who enjoys the show. Big up Chatman who enjoys the show. Chatman said, Robbo, you need to be rocking a Malbec. So this is a Malbec. This is Argentinian.
All right. Well, it's
not Albanian like the one that you buy.
No, this one is Merlot. I haven't seen, you know what? You know my Albanian friend, right? I gave him some white rum. I haven't seen him since. And I need to see him.
Hey, Ernie. Hey, funny enough, I've been seeing Ray and Nephews pop up. And for me, I can't manage Ray and Nephews. Ray and Nephews is more of a medicine. Ray and Nephews is more something called pat your forehead with when you're feeling cool and rub down your chest. Yeah. I can't do it. I mean, I know it's the cure for everything for you. Like you want a reason, Ernie pulls out a Ray and Nephew. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Ernie wants to argue, Ernie pulls out a Ray and Nephew. But I've noticed that those companies are popping around and they're promoting on their social media a lot of their products with a lot of, I don't know, social media people that's really good on social media. Haven't they dropped a bottle around to you? I mean,
no, don't be stupid. No, you're the people who own Ray and you know who owns Ray and Nephew now, isn't it? It's an Italian company.
Yeah.
It's an Italian company that owns Ray and Nephew now. So, you know, I don't really look Italian, so maybe they haven't reached me yet. Maybe
I see some brothers, but I see them promoting like they're like Ray and Nephew, and it was like, you know, celebrating rap, drill, and R&B, and no reggae, nothing. And they don't do it. They don't do it very well. And another company, just on that same note, I noticed they were giving out free shoes. Your second favorite footwear after your slippers, Clarks.
Oh no, Robbo, I got one, bruv.
Did you get one?
The Clark's Jamaica link up business. Yeah, man. They sent me one yesterday. I'm telling you, it's banging.
One yesterday. When me buy my one.
Oh, sorry.
No, I've had this before. But, okay. Yeah, I noticed they were giving it out. I'm the only one that does a show with Clarks and tracksuit bottoms. That's how I am.
Oh, okay. Well, big up Al Fingers, because you know Al Fingers is instrumental in that, and he's got his second book on the Clark subject as well. So big up Al Fingers. Maybe we'll see if we can get some to give away, Robbo. You never know.
That should be. I mean, I want to say shouts to all the companies out there that's branding, using, obviously branding themselves as Jamaican.
Yep.
Big up. But let's do some giveaways. So I don't need a pair of Clarks. I got my own, but maybe we can get them to give us some Clarks, and maybe you can get your mates, your Italian mates, to give us some rare nephews, and we'll be giving it out.
Some rare nephew drop off around here, and then maybe off to give away.
Evening to everybody listening, watching the show on Robbo Ranks Radio. We're going live on the radio for the first time, Ernie. The show's so big, I can't keep it down, and people are requesting it, so we're live on the stream. And anybody that's watching right now on Facebook and YouTube, come on, guys. All we're asking you to do, especially on YouTube, is just subscribe. Let's get some subscriptions up. We're looking to move the thing up, but Ernie's done it again. Last week, Saturday morning, Yanga TV. The show's on television. Yeah, it can't be on YouTube.
Hey, so you can get it on Yanga TV. Big up Simon and all the crew over there. It's on Freeview channel 264. What they do, they edit it to an hour, and it just bangs out for an hour. 264 Freeview channel, 11 till 12 midday. So you can get it on
wider on TV. You look wider on TV though, Ernie.
Well, it's a widescreen business going on.
I was watching it last week, Saturday morning. I was like, damn, I thought Ernie lost weight. He's putting it back on again since last night.
No. Well, I'll have to have a word with Simon and let him look good. Somebody just come up there I used to work with, Adam Middlebrook. Now, he is a staunch Arsenal fan. So for him to be over here watching us, that means we're running things. Things is going in. Big up my man, Adam. Original Arsenal man, you know what I mean? But I tell you what, go on.
I was going to say shouts to Adam, shouts to all the Arsenal fans. We love these Arsenal fans, but we was talking in the week, we were saying Tottenham fans seem to propel the show even further. I think we can do it. Ernie. I think we can use some Spursy methane gas and propel the show, because man, I was accosted by a young DJ who's a Tottenham fan, and he was like, "What are you saying? I said, "We'll get him on the show." So we're getting a lot of approach from the Tottenham fans. Hey, and speaking of Arsenal fans, shouts to Crucial Robbie on ASC TV. They lost one of their guys who gave them input, Claude, who I used to watch and think the brother was miserable, but it was funny. So condolences to Claude and Robbie and the whole team at AFC TV.
Well, we got to really say condolences to the whole of the Arsenal fraternity, because this week's marks 20 years of the passing of quite possibly, well, he was part of the most formidable midfield in the history of Arsenal. We're talking David Rocastle. 20 years. Rocky Rocastle.
I was calling him Rockers, man. Rockers Roadcastle. That brother was tough.
It was wicked, and then you had Thomas in there as well. The three of them in that George Graham midfield was formidable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So enough respect out to Karen and the whole team, the whole Roadcastle team from way back. You know what I mean? Enough respect.
Yeah, shouts out to them. So yeah, a couple of notable things that's happened in the week. And also today marks the birthday of one of the greatest reggae singers of all time. We don't get to talk about reggae, but let's do it today. Let's big up Garnet Silk.
Oh, yeah, man.
The legend, the silky one. Zion in a Vision.
You know that, bro.
Yeah, so happy birthday to the Garnet.
Great.
I see Zion in a Vision.
Yes, you know that. But I tell you what, Robert, it's been some week in it. We've had, well, I tell you, Sir Lenny Henry wrote a letter, trying to.
You were going good, and you start talking about Lenny Henry.
No, well, what happened? I was going to write a letter to.
I don't want to talk about Lenny.
I was going to write a letter to Jurgen to see if I could get you a job up at Anfield. See if I could get you to play for Liverpool, as Lenny's writing a letter for black people to take the vaccine. You know what I mean? So I was going to see if I could write a letter to Jurgen. What do you think? No.
No, that won't happen. That won't happen. And I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, even if you wanted people to take the vaccine, even if you wanted to take a joke from Maxine, the vaccine. I mean, Lenny Henry.
That's what I was saying, Robert. I don't know how they worked that out. Respect to Lenny and David Airwood and all them people there, but really,
you know, it's most of those guys have obviously they're kind of like and their status is that, you know, OBEs, MBEs, and they've gone to those sirs and what have you. I don't know, but then maybe it's just the thinking of the people in power who just believe let's just Lenny, I got his number in my phone book. Lenny, can you ask some black folks to take the vaccine like Maxine? It ain't gonna work. I mean, listen, whatever decision you make, obviously it's a decision you make for yourself and obviously for your family, whoever. But I don't know how much. Maybe Edward would be able to tell us how much they offered Lenny, because they probably offered it to Eddie, and Eddie was like, "No, I got to go on the fixture list with Robert and Ernie. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't take the bants."
And then you had Tony Sewell completing a report, which it's just I don't even know if it's worth talking.
The show's going downhill, bro. The show's going downhill. Let's just keep it football. Tony Sewell, allow it. Let's go. Right. We'll talk about Tony Sewell later.
Yeah,
your friend.
Thrown it in the mix so that people are aware that we'll probably be asking John and also Troy about that. But
you know what's going to come up because this show is not institutionally racist.
No,
apart from when Ernie.
No, it's not. Now, because you know we're on TV, right? It's
you can't listen. I mean, everybody has their bias, but institutionally racist. Listen, that label can't be on me, bro. That can't be on us. We can't have that. We can't have that. Not around here. None at all. But Troy Townsend from Kick It Out is going to be on the show. And of course, the big boy, John
Barnes.
You got a lot of things to say. So that's going to be interesting.
The Dark Destroyer's coming in as well. Shaun Wallace is joining us as well. Because all of a sudden he thinks that Chelsea's going to win the league. He says that they make a real push for the top. So we'll be hearing from him a little bit later on as well.
The only pushing is they're getting pushed out, mate.
And then my man Rodney, the cool ruler, he's going to be here very shortly. Actually, the cool ruler should be joining us very soon. So it's a very full show tonight. The Premiership's back. England's got 9 points from their exploits in Europe, so they're now going to win the Euros as usual. You know, England do well in the qualifying, and when it gets to the main course, they flop. So
listen, I must say this: Sterling is I'm a boy, yeah, but I can't have it. I mean, and even if it happens with players that play for Liverpool, this dive into that was a clear dive, Sterling, bro. I mean, they say I've seen them given, and yeah, I've seen them given, but you can clearly see that the Polish team and the Polish defenders, it was a bit of naivety in that tackle. Sterling is running down a blind spot. There's no way Sterling could beat the guy before he hits the byline. It ain't gonna happen. He wouldn't have been able to put a cross in. But of course, the Polish defender was naive. But then I'd have thought that the referee who referees all these games, these big international games, they know the level of England, they know the level of Poland, And, you know, they have to do their due diligence before they take on the match. They know who are the players who's going to be a bit tasty, who's going to be mouthy. All that is done before the game. And you know, you got Harry Kane playing for England. Harry Sugarlegs Kane. You just know any chance of a slip. Oh, I got pushed in the back. It's going to happen. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I could point the finger on Sterling. He doesn't. It's not Sterling's type of game, but he bought that foul. I mean, that was like, no, I actually he sold it. It was like,
actually, I didn't actually see it, but I heard about it. And from what I hear, it wasn't really.
It's not Sterling-esque.
Behaves like that.
Yeah, and I know he's doing his job and everything, and you know, as they say, I've seen him given, and you know, you got to make your own luck and all of that. But that's clear diving, and not once was it really condemned by the commentators, which you wouldn't expect. Watching England games, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I wish I'd hope that these players like Sterling it doesn't creep in their game. It's been accused that my player Mo Salah. I don't like it. And it's clear it really is cheating. It's just cheating.
You know what? So. The cool ruler's here, right? And oh man, I forgot to take out the cool ruler record. Oh, hold on. I might have something here for him. Hold on. Because we want to bring in the cool ruler properly, you know what I mean?
Shout out to guess who. Hey, if you're in, people who's in right now, drop a message. Let us know you're here. Let me know where you at. Tell us where you're actually watching the stream from. So if you're here, shout out to Patrick Tappins. Big up Patrick. We don't know where Patrick's from.
He comes from East London, man. He lives in East London.
Yeah, come on, rep your ends, rep your area, rep your code. Anybody that's tuned in right now, let me know where you at. Just drop a one message right now. Let us know you're here. All you got to do is present, ready for kickoff. You know what I mean? You're in the lineup. You're in the team. Let me know if you're in the team right now. If you're in the lineup, let's get Anthony working. Let's get some of those shots. Who's here? Who is in the team? Who's on the bench? If you're on the bench, don't even bother.
Yeah, no bother.
If you're in the lineup, drop your name and a shout or a thumbs up. Let us know that you are here. Guess who is from London? Harrow. He's from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, but hear what he said. He said if Chelsea win the league, they're going to
from St. Vincent. Big up St. Vincent, massive. Shout to the island.
That's Stephanie from St. Vincent. You big up Steffi in St. Vincent. Who's this?
Shouts going out to Robin Blair. Robin, are you still a politician? Are you dipping in or dipping out? Big up Robin. Oh, guess who said he's from near the leisure centre?
In the leisure centre.
All right, that's where Ernie found his first love, on the corner of the leisure centre in Harrow.
Shush, stop it.
Aaron White says he's from the better side of the city. What is the better side of the city? Don't say South London. You cannot. You must be joking. Shout out to Master Blaster who's locked in Buckinghamshire. Yep.
You know that.
Lloyd from North London. Big up Lloyd Clark. Let us know you're here. Drop where you are from. Listen, come on, man. St. Vincent, and then Debbie's chimed in from Dollis Hill. Dollis Hill, Houston. Big up, Debs. Let us know where you're from. Come on.
Robbo, let's
rack up some area shouts, man. Because Dollis Hill is in the house. And if you didn't know, Ernie, I grew up as a young tot in Dollis Hill.
Yeah, but what part of Dollis Hill? What road?
Aberdeen Road, right near Gladstone Park. Aberdeen Road, right beside Gladstone Park.
Because then now you tell me it's like Chapter Road and all that. You know that's Willesden.
No. I was on. All right. You see Dollis Hill. You understand? And then you went through the station. When you go through into the station, you end up on Chapter Road, and where's Chapter Road where everything kind of starts. That's where it went wrong for me going through the station.
Yeah, it all. Went
wrong.
Hey, Robbo.
Ah, Debs from Rosebank. What's up, Debs? Can't recognize you. What song is this, Ernie? Hold on, let me hear this one.
Oh, yeah. Sister Love.
Right behind the
Easy.
Easy.
Hey, Rodney, do you approve of that one? Sister Love, Gregory Isaac.
Listen, I'm just happy to be recognised amongst two legends like yourself. Good evening, gents. Happy Good Friday to you. How's it all going?
It's all right. It's all right. I still got a bit of bone in the throat. I kind of done a brim, and it didn't.
It didn't. Oh, yeah. That's the only problem with the fish, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You can't generally just sometimes get involved the way you could do.
I was trying to skillfully navigate my way through it really quickly because I knew the show was on, and it's one of those platters that you got to take your time. Take your time. Just take your time. You got to take it easy and cool, like yourself.
Well,
how's your week been, Rodney?
It's been fantastic. I heard you talking about the International Week. I really try not to get involved with International Week. Or if I do, I watch like Belgium or France or something like that. The whole England thing, it just gets caught up in the hype, as far as I'm concerned. 1 minute when you're beating Albania and Poland, you're going to win the World Cup or the Euros. And then come the tournament itself, reality kicks in. I tell you what, that French squad is looking good, you know. Trust me.
I didn't see all of the international games.
Yeah.
I was more focused on the games, obviously, where Liverpool players. Did you see that touch from Mo Salah? Walking into the dressing room.
Yeah.
My third big favorite city, the 254 Kenya. He's gone in the dressing room, and all the Kenyan players like say, you mean, Mo?
You mean.
I love that.
I love that. I mean, yeah, like you, I follow the Arsenal players that play, you know, Tierney at Scotland.
He played well, Tierney.
He did play, yeah. I think it was about 3. And of course...
Yeah, but you know who was holding Tierney's hand, though?
Robertson. Is that what you're going to say?
The captain, the capo.
Yeah. And
Capo had him.
They actually face each other tomorrow in what's going to be a really special game of football tomorrow. Trust me.
Yes, we are going to talk about Arsenal, Liverpool. It's a special match. I mean, Man United, Liverpool's a special match, but Arsenal, and I don't have a bad vibe for any of my Arsenal friends. Most of my friends are Arsenal because obviously typically living in London, but it is a special game. And I remember this top rolling out at the Emirates, and I know you remember it. And it was a goal that introduced the whole of the Prem to what would be happening, called the Dark Nightmare. And I always wear this shirt because it's got the lion rips. Yeah. Sadio Mane.
Yeah, he was
ran into the box, broke up your right back, broke up your centre half, and then boy.
I was at that game actually. I was at the right end to watch it. So
what a goal. Was that the goal of the season?
It was it was right up there. It was up there. What I would say is this, right? Do you remember the 4-4 at Anfield?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a special game because neither team is where it needs to be. And if Arsenal should win, they'll be 1 point behind Liverpool in the league. So that's my answer to why it's a special game. And obviously, it's a traditional Premier League game. And as I said, let's see what happens. I don't think it'll end up 0-0.
No, definitely not a 0-0 game. But I won't call my predictions now. But I wouldn't be. I stand here and I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal win because we're both mid-table teams right now.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Hey, Ernie mentioned your former colleague, and I just saw somebody drop a message in the box about your former colleague, your ex-Voice newspaper colleague. One of the reasons why, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't read his column. Horror. Tony Sewell. He's dropped his report, part of the government's report about racism, institutional racism. I'm not gonna dwell on too long because I don't know if you dine with him, but
I don't dine with him. No, I don't. I wasn't. No, millions of people.
Don't run, Rodney. Calm down.
Millions of people have written for The Voice, so yeah.
Rodney's. I don't know him. I don't know him.
I'm fully aware of him. I'm fully aware of him.
Hey, Rodney, nobody can bust your head. Listen, come on. But that report it wasn't done in true Voice style. It was done in Tony Sewell style. What's your opinion quickly about that?
Please don't associate it with The Voice. First of all, I mean. If he worked for the Ford Motor Company, I'm sure we wouldn't be bringing them into the party. But listen, the report isn't representative of our community. Simple as that, really.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
All right.
Do you know what I mean?
Tell you what, we got Edward coming in. I've got a song for Edward now. Edward's coming in. You know Edward, right?
Eddie don't need the
Oh
song.
God! This is where the real fireworks begin.
Don't need a song.
I think just Eddie needs like sound effects. Like
Sound effects.
When one of the most hated player come on the pitch and you hear the fans go, no. In fact, no, Ernie. In fact, Eddie don't need none. Eddie just needs some cream and some licks. Good evening, Edward.
Oh, it's gonna be one of those days.
Good evening, Edward.
I bought my.
No.
This is a holy place. It's a holy time, right? And I want to say Amazing Grace. And I've got to say, hold on, I don't know how to stop this now.
Is it scripture?
No, I got to say, Rodders, good evening to you. Happy Good Friday. Ernie, good evening to you. Happy Good Friday. And Robbo, you need to cook the fish before you try to eat it, bruv. That would always help. Man, just getting a spear, pick up the fish and try to eat it. That's it. And Rodders, why didn't you tell him about Michael Thomas when he started talking rubbish? Remember that 2-0? I'm sure you remember that.
What does that look like? Does that look like it's cooked, son?
It looked like what I finished with the toilet with a couple of days ago, bruv. It looked messy.
Ed, you're absolutely right about Michael Thomas. The famous line it's up for grabs now, and it was up for grabs, man. Yeah. I mean, I think that those two have a real kind of rivalry, born out of when you were top four sides. Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. That's like Arsenal versus Tottenham. Remember, Robert called it, didn't he? Well, last time we were here, a few weeks back, I said to him, I didn't see how Arsenal could beat Tottenham, and he called it right, didn't he? As I said on this forum before, when Arsenal play, there's just this level of stupid unpredictability. So there's no real form guide with Arsenal. They could well get hammered tomorrow, or as you said, or Robbo, beat Liverpool. As I said, I don't think it'll be 0-0. But there's still all to play for. The
only thing that I am confident for, because as I said, both teams haven't, in terms of form, there ain't no form here. But they do like to play each other. But I just think that just that cutting edge up top, Aubameyang could come, party done. Party's over, and then Salah could roll up with Jota.
Negotiate the traffic. That's as long as he can negotiate the traffic, though.
There's no traffic, man. I know we can meet a few people and have a party in the garden like Edward, but there's not.
There's a problem there, When you do that to your captain, the person who's supposed to be the one who holds your dressing room together. Every week I feel like I'm saying the same thing. It's because I don't sometimes think we take on board what happens outside or off the pitch. So he's come late. Apparently he's done it before. They left him on the bench. It was quite public. They won the game. I mean, I'm not sure he's done anything since, has he, Rudders?
No, not done anything since. And of course, what we've got to add into the mix for tomorrow as well, all these players that have travelled for World Cup qualification or whatever it is, coming back, air miles collected, what state will they be in? And maybe more importantly, both have big European games in the middle of the week. I think Liverpool play on Tuesday.
Real Madrid.
And Arsenal play on Thursday in the minor European tournament. I thought
you should know it's Thursday. It only happens on a Thursday. You only do.
Happens on a Thursday. But my learned colleague Edward Nestor and Lord Ernie know about Thursday night football now as well. So
United's winning that cup, United's winning that cup.
You think? What about an Arsenal Man United Europa League final?
It doesn't matter. Listen, it hurts me to say it, but United is winning that cup. They've got the teeth for that cup.
Okay.
They remind me of when Liverpool was in that cup. When they get going, I think when United get going, and I think to be fair, I think it's actually a problem that United is still in that cup because it will stabilize their position in the league, and it hurts me to say, but I think Man United win Europa Cup.
I don't know. I mean, I mean, I just think Solskjaer's not quite doing badly enough to sack him, and it's in a really weird place. I don't think he's the manager long term, but I don't think he's doing bad enough for you to sack him. In an extraordinary year, we're second or third now, nailed on more or less, aren't we?
I think he is. So, I think he is the manager long term. If I'm honest.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think there will be talk of a new contract for him at the end of this one. If that Europa League title comes as Robbo has predicted, if then you finish second,
what evidence, as a sports journalist, what evidence have you seen that when the difficult decisions come in the last third of the final of a game, that Solskjaer will make the right ones at the right time in order for us to win anything? I'm just interested.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying, but I think. Why would you sack him now when there's potential trophy coming and a really good finish?
I agree. How many have we got to the quarterfinal or semi-final of?
You go out 40 games.
I don't mean him any ill will, and I think we've done really well. But I'm just saying, in my heart, if you're looking at,
I think the challenge is, however, that wholly disappointing quarter-final against Leicester City in the FA Cup is a real cameo of where United are sometimes.
It's typical, actually.
Absolutely brilliant. Can't, you know what I mean? And then you lose to Leicester. That said, all due respect, Leicester, you got to give them credit. When Vardy's not firing, Ian Nacho has stepped up to the plate.
Who called it Ian Nacho? Because I was joking. I was saying Nacho's going to yam them, but I called it. And I did say I had to echo Rodney. I said Nacho's going to do you lot with nachos and cheese, and he actually did.
I
must say about Man United as a Liverpool fan, I can see in recent times. I don't know if it's just born out of like his approach, his languid approach. I think the team has more he's actually galvanized the players more just by being a bit laid back, and it's probably taken him at least up to now in the season to get to iron out all the differences in the dressing room.
You talking about Ian Nacho?
Ole. I don't know if it's found its way, but I just think he's ironed out, and I can see most players want to play for Man United, and that is a good thing, and that's one of the things you got to credit him for. They all look like they want to play.
I think when the scenario Ed has talked about Ole, etc. I think when you're Manchester United, maybe more so than any other team in the Premier League, maybe bar Liverpool, right? There has to be an expectancy. Have been the standard bearers for decades. I'm not quite sure where Ole's taking the team. Do you know what I mean? As a project, do you give him more money and he goes and buys a centre half and a midfielder? The Van der Beek thing hasn't clearly worked. The Fernandes thing.
One player. That's one miserable player.
No, but but he was seen as a piece to finish off the jigsaw puzzle. Clearly, the likes of Fernandes have worked. Yeah.
Rod, that was Edward. That was Ed Woodward who thought he was a piece. From what I understand,
Ernie. It was Ole. No, Ernie. I'm not buying that. It was Edward. Everybody likes the level. You all like the level. Yeah, but you all level buying players down to Edward. He does the business. If the profile of the player didn't, if the profile of the player didn't suit Man United, you wouldn't put your money down. You lot believed he had the profile for Man United. Ole is the manager. It's down to Ole. If Ole feels he didn't fit the profile, he wouldn't have been there. So stop blaming Edward. Anyway, I know the Dark Destroyer. Yeah. Shaun Wallace is in the house. He's chiming in. He says, Robbo, the last time you were in Europe, you got done by Sewell. Yeah, but the last time we was in Europe wasn't the last time we got done by any Sewell. The last time we was in Europe, we walked out as champions. But Shaun is here.
It was only Tottenham in the final. It was only Tottenham.
Oh dear.
Let's be serious now. You know what I mean? It's only
Eddie, we've made a pact. We've got to embrace Tottenham fans.
We need one of them on here to give him a good beating. That's what we need.
We had one last time, didn't we?
Actually, we got somebody coming on here, and he's one of your colleagues, Eddie. He's a daytime presenter on the BBC, and he's going to come.
Tottenham fan.
Yep, I'm not going to say no more.
Oh, right. Looking forward to that.
He does your job. In fact, he's just like you. He's a dreamer, just like you.
Robert White, who's a super fan, he's going to come on next week, right? Ernie's right. Woodward is the problem. We did not need Van der Beek. He is not going to play ahead of Pogba or Fernandes, who is playing in his position. Well, next week, my mate Robert will be here, and you can question him. But the Dark Destroyer's here, who I spoke to during the week, and he now says that Chelsea's going to make a serious push to win the Premiership. So we better bring it in.
Sorry. The matters in the hands of my solicitors. Yeah, the matters in the hands of my solicitors. I don't make rash statements like that. And if you don't retract it, right, you will be hearing from my legal team.
Is that true, Ernie? Ernie, is that true?
Since Tunjar's come there, he thinks that he says that they're making a concerted effort.
No, I did not.
Do you know what that is? Hey, do you know what that is, Ernie? Ernie, you know what that is? He got it on this, one of them, an earpiece. Somebody told him on an earpiece, the answer is Chelsea are going to win the league. That's what it is.
Ernie, did you send Robbo that ditto, that little thing? Did you send it to him? Did he send it to him?
Of course.
No, Ernie,
yes,
did you send that little thing? Did you get it? Did you get it, Robbo?
Yes, I did get it.
Right.
And now...
Right.
I reserved the follow button. I didn't want to go there. I'm now following you on all your social medias.
Good.
Keep talking.
No, guess what? Let's swap telephone numbers, bro. Don't need to do that.
Yeah, we'll do that too. No, actually, I don't want the telephone numbers because I saw the text.
Right, yeah.
Hey, I don't want the telephone. I saw the text. I said it was enough. I know you are a lunatic now. Sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm there with you.
Ernie, back to you, mate. Sorry, don't hide. No, don't hide your face. Don't hide your face.
What? Good evening, Shaun.
No, don't hide your face.
Good evening, Shaun. Anyway, good evening, Shaun.
Good evening, guys. Rodney, you're a sensible guy for this team. Right? How are you, man? Happy Good Friday.
Very well, my friend.
Happy Good Friday to you.
Let me just talk about two lunatics, right? Ernie, you had a discussion about how Chelsea are progressing. I said to you, we're taking it one game at a time, yeah? I said that I'm still missing Frank. I said, all we're basically doing is see what's going to happen one game at a time. I'm not getting carried away until the end of the season when I appraise the situation. That's what I said to you. You've now come on social media. You've misrepresented what I've said. Yeah? Right? And you're partly crying Robbo Ranks, right? Who basically is hanging his head in shame because he knows that Arsenal are going to turn his team over tomorrow. And
is that where you're going tonight, Shaun?
Yeah,
that's where he started. You know, that's where he started.
Guess what? I'll take the gloves off. Right, I was too nice to you guys the last time. The gloves off now.
Shaun, that's where you're going tonight. You're just going in straight, double barrel, right? All right,
straight,
good.
double barrel. Not my erstwhile colleagues Eddie and Rodney, because guess what? They're the sensible in part of the sort of chat. You two now, right? You two have got a half cock, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
Well, I tell you what, anybody who can do a video and have a Liverpool flag in the background and talk about, you might see a Liverpool flag in the background, but I don't really, they need testing. They need to get tested, bro.
Okay, and I'll explain where I am. Right, I'm in Bristol at the moment. I told you I was in Bristol. I'm doing a Crown Court trial. If you want me to go and bring my best mate, who's a big Liverpool fan, he's put me upstairs, right, in his attic. And guess what? I'm not tearing down his Liverpool flag. Right?
Well,
I'm respecting the man.
I was there. That flag was coming down.
I would tear down a Chelsea flag.
You're suspect, bro.
Seriously? It's Liverpool.
You're suspect.
He's a diehard Liverpool fan. No. Absolutely not. And I'm going to make another admission. Right, when Liverpool beat Chelsea in September, I had a bet I had a bet with my close mate Butler, right? That if Chelsea lost, I'd wear
Butler
Liverpool.
Halsden Butler.
Yeah, Halsden Butler, right? And I'll send you guys a video. I'm not ashamed, right? I lost a bet. I've got 6 Liverpool guys around my house, and I had to put the Liverpool shirt on. And they were singing "You Never Walk Alone," right? And guess what? I lost a bet. So it's not a problem.
Listen. I'll say this. I'm 5 points behind you in the league. I don't know. You're looking good. Listen, you're looking good.
We're looking okay.
If we get past, just remember this, and this is where me and you are we'll just do the show. We'll put Ernie out, Rodney out. It would just be the show. Yeah, just me and you. It'll be Liverpool when we get past Real Madrid, which we will, and you will get past Porto. We'll have that Champions League semi-final show, guns blazing.
Absolutely. But hold on, let me just say something, right? I'm not taking Porto for granted. Porto have only conceded 1 goal, right, in the last 8 or so matches. They've got Pepe, a 38-year-old veteran who knows how to win the Champions League, who knows how to defend.
I'm not taking Real Madrid. I'm not taking Real Madrid.
Right? But you are.
No, I'm not. I just believe we have the will in the Champions League. I am purely basing this one off willpower. I just believe Liverpool have the will to beat them on 2 legs.
If we are both fortunate to get through, right, to the semi-final, Chelsea will be the Champions League final in Istanbul. We got it. Have you heard that? Have you heard that?
Listen, Shaun. I can see the sponsors now. This show's going to be great. Just bring them in.
It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic.
I don't want
guess what? How about everybody else? It's the Robbo and Shaun show. Well, it's not a problem. Right?
I don't want clocks and I don't want white rum. Just bring those sponsors. Come.
Not a problem, bro. Not a problem.
All right. Anyway, how are you? How are you, Shaun? How's your week?
I'm good, mate. As I say, I'm in Bristol at the moment. I've gone back to my day job, so I'm in the middle of a big drugs trial down in Bristol. So I've just been preparing for that all week.
The true thing's coming out now.
You might have a couple more with the way they're protesting Kill the Bill. You just walk around, you can pick up clients in Bristol all day now.
You know that. It's going to be real proper rich.
Shaun's got to keep it. Shaun's got to keep it on the line. But Shaun, speaking of Kill the Bill and all of that, forget the bill. We just asked Rodney about his opinion from his former colleague, Tony Sewell.
Tony Sewell, yeah.
Tony Sewell's findings. It wasn't just down to Tony Sewell, we must add.
No.
How it was delivered. All right, this is where you come in, because when it comes to delivering a master, presenting something for your the jury to take in and sit there with their summation. I mean, it was very, very poor how it was handled. What's your opinion?
It was, and like Rodney, sadly, I wasn't surprised by the nature and the content of the conclusions and findings. Sometimes, the establishment, the government played token lip service in relation to basically saying that we want to have a real and proper and thorough investigation into the problem so far as race, the problem so far as discrimination. But I think sometimes that the committee and especially the author of the report are basically scared to say what they really should say in order to actually make that sort of paradigmic shift or that seismic change what we really need to actually, address it. 20 years ago, when Sir William Macpherson said there was institutional racism, everybody sat up and took notice. But what we haven't taken on from that is a real proper insight, a real proper investigation, and a real proper findings into relation to the problems which are still currently sadly there. And yet again, it's another report which the government is sort of happy to basically say, well, we've addressed it, you've seen the conclusions and findings, and so far as we're concerned, there's nothing wrong with the situation, but it always will be.
Do you think it's made the situation? I believe it's kind of open. I think it's opened a can of worms. I think it's made the situation worse. And when the government are going to put these actions together to find, you know, government findings into various things, I just think it's not even worth. It feels like after this one, it feels like it wouldn't be worth the paper it's written on. I think sadly,
as I say, the last, as I already mentioned, the McPherson report with that phrase "institutional racism" shook the foundations of the establishment to its very core, and it really did make it wake up and smell the coffee. But 20 years on, where we're supposed to have gone further down the road and make reach the nirvana of real and positive and lasting change, it simply hasn't happened, and that's why it takes, as I say, protests to basically say we've had enough. And if we're not careful, then we're going to have even a greater divisiveness in our society.
Sad times. I'm pretty sure by the time Troy comes in, we're going to have this conversation. Because Troy does a lot of does his work and really goes the distance for the Kick It Out campaign. And John's going to join us later on the show, and I'm pretty sure
somebody like Troy. If we have somebody like Troy, he's such a sort of intelligent, articulate man. If we had somebody like him, leading the inquiry, leading the report, he would hit home the hard truth, what we really need. I'm telling you that now.
Most definitely.
I'll tell you what,
most
we
definitely.
got Troy's waiting. We can bring Troy in right at this juncture right now. Hello, Troy Townsend from the Kick It Out Foundation. We can bring him in right now. How are you, Troy?
Ernie, before you let in Troy, you had this nice, cool ruler, Gregory Isaac, for Rodney. You know when Troy comes on, I told you what to do. Sizzler! 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 Sizzler Kalonji!
Take him out.
No, you can't take him out. He's here. Come back, Troy. Come back.
But I can't believe you took me out. You took me out to bring me back in. And there's still no Sizzler. Huh?
I listened. Apologies, Troy. I prompted Ernie. I said, listen, get the music ready. I haven't got my setup.
Just one of them days.
When Troy comes in, fire bun, 2 Sizzler, 2 K. You know what you've got to do, Ernie, man. You got to get Troy coming. Good evening, Troy. What's up, brother?
I'm good. Hope everyone's well and enjoying the start of the bank holiday proceedings.
You heard what the big man had to say. He said that you would be somebody that would be a voice, very much so, because you're very close to in the heart of the institution of football. And we've heard you in the past. We've seen you in the past. You've come on the show and you've made mention of what you believe is something that just goes on and on and on. It's like this wheel can't come off. Would you be up for being involved in something like that? Or are you happy with doing the Kick It Out? I mean, you're doing great work with Kick It Out anyway.
I'd be happy to do something like that in football and rip football apart if I ever could. Because like I said, there's no point me talking about the government when my own industry can't even get it right. We have campaigns, we have hashtags, we have whatever else it may be, t-shirts, and we still can't get it right, so societal thing is a much bigger picture, and of course it would be an honor to be able to rip apart our government, that's for sure. But at the moment I'm having enough problems trying to deal with the industry that I'm working in to even think about the bigger picture at the moment.
The last time you come on the show, you actually didn't use the word BAME. You must be happy about that.
Didn't I? I told you.
I remember you were saying it back then.
I don't know who they're talking about. I don't know, and it doesn't need a government report to tell me that the acronym is not fit for purpose. As much as what that report did, it doesn't describe anyone. It doesn't talk about our experiences. It groups us all together. Because it normally helps figures and percentages. So, they've identified it 24 months too late. But listen, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. So hopefully now, as we move on, although the very next day, I still saw newspapers using the acronym because it helps with their word count. So, there you go.
Crazy. Does any of the findings affect anything that you're doing currently with the Kick It Out campaign? I mean, it's too early to say, I suppose. We've just I mean, it was announced before anybody can actually read through it. And we've got our friend Dean Wright, who writes for, is it The Guardian now? She was at the Huffington Post, and she was like, she covers
Independent. She's at the
Independent. Yeah,
she covers the whole thing, and she's been on board with it. And the findings came out, and it wasn't the press release wasn't sent out to any of the journalists. So definitely too early to see what happens. But do you believe it has any help in what you do as Kick It Out campaign? Be honest.
Absolutely. No, listen, I don't think it impacts us anyway. But what it would do, it will make the many people that feel that football doesn't have an issue in regards to racism, and have often hid when the conversation of racism, rears its ugly head, as they would say. It would make them absolutely almost pat each other on the back and say, "Told you so." We've got a gentleman called Simon Jordan who does quite a lot on Talk Sport, who talks a very good game in regards to racism, although he's never experienced it himself, but he doesn't believe that it's an issue in our industry, and I saw a tweet from him probably hours after that report came out, almost saying, I told you, there's no problems here in this country. And that just shows his own personal ignorance in regards to this topic of conversation. And by the way, there'll be many, many like him who would be saying, yeah, well, we did say that all you keep doing is talking about negative stuff. We've always liked the black lads in our club, and we've always liked the black people in our industry. Well, I'll tell you now, as a black man, no, they haven't. So, it doesn't impact us as much, but it does almost for the many say, well, we have been telling them for quite a long time that we don't have issues in this country.
Eddie, you've had a lot to digest this week, being on your daily show, and obviously when the findings came out, how did you find having to deliver the good news? Whoopie-dee-doo. And how did your audience take to it, bro?
It's a difficult one, unlike Shaun and Troy, and good evening to you both. I'm there to deliver the news, and although I host conversations, it's really difficult because I'm supposed to be impartial. So you try to put all ends, but like Rodney, I know Tony. I've met Tony. I've interviewed Tony Sewell many times. And I think you need to understand something about Tony Sewell. And I think you need people like him, although let me qualify that by saying he doesn't recognize things that other people do as a barrier to what he's able to achieve. And he feels that the more we talk about it is the more we give ourselves an excuse for not doing the things that we know we have to do. He runs an organization called Generating Genius, where he gets black boys from poor backgrounds who have potential, and he drives that potential. So the report's findings didn't surprise me, as he has stated that he doesn't recognize institutional racism, and it's held by a prime minister who calls gays tank top wearing bum boys, Muslims dressed like post boxes, and people like you and me, pickaninnies with our watermelon smiles. So it comes from a place, there have been four in the last 4 years, there have been four. There's been the Windrush one, there's been David Lammy's one. So once we've got Shamima Begum, once we've got police with more powers, and few of us have the ability to protest, I think we can see where it's going. The difficulty is, when you're experiencing something and when you're moving in a particular way and people are saying to you, no, it's not like that. And remember, as I'm delivering the news, there's a picture that's repeatedly shown of a white officer with his knee on a black man's neck, because they're showing George Floyd dying again and again and again. I think we're in a moment, and I think, discussions like this across all platforms are really, really important. And to take it back to where we are and what we're talking about, you've got one of the, I would say probably, it's difficult because Aguero's going now, but Drogba, Aguero, Bergkamp, but Henry has got to be one of the greatest imports ever into this country, and he's taken himself off of social media for exactly the reason that we're talking about.
Yeah, we saw that news this week with Henri.
Robbo, do you mind if I just come in there a minute? Do you mind if I come in there a minute and just almost back up what Eddie said, obviously from my industry? You know, we had a chairman of the FA who obviously is the governance of the game, who publicly to the DCMS committee called people of our colour skin coloured. He also said that the Asians in the IT department are almost comfortable with their role in there because that's what their job expectation is. And the black people have different career choices. He called being gay a life choice. And ultimately, his last one was that he said that girls who play football are often scared of the football and are scared of the ball. So for me, in one foul swoop, that man picked up a bowling ball and put it down the aisle and smashed every characteristic that he could possibly smash in one foul swoop. Now, I tell you now, the only reason he left his job, and I was quite surprised that it took 5 hours for him to leave or be dismissed or whatever it may have been, was that he'd had form. So like players have form, he had form in describing black people, particularly in the way that he had. Now, when people talk about institutional racism, it flags up so much for me because the FA quickly dismissed their former chair very quickly, disowned him. Okay. But I'm thinking now, what were those conversations like in the boardroom? What were people saying about the likes of myself and others in the game, you know, as banter as such, as a way of conversation, because there's no one like me in those boardrooms to tell them, actually, that's not acceptable. So where people say, well, it's his view, he's gone. I'm saying to you, that man didn't just say that view live on TV because he felt it was acceptable. He's come from a culture where it was deemed acceptable. So actually, for me, that FA should be looked into and investigated personally, you know. And there was a documentary last week. I don't know if people saw Football's Darkest Secrets, which talked about the scandal around, which talked about the scandal around sexual abuse.
Horrendous.
People knew what was going on. People knew what was going on. And yet people still sit comfortably in the leather chairs. And I can't understand how football doesn't deal with these issues appropriately. So not just racism. I know I'm here and I'll always talk about racism till I was going to say black and blue in the face. You could probably see that I am black and blue anyway. But for me, then football never is held account because no one can hold those authorities to account.
Let me just chip in here for a second. It's almost like the police policing the police, isn't it, really, when certain things go wrong. Troy is absolutely right. We are in a scenario that because we don't have enough people like ourselves at that top table, this is why things continue to go wrong. Yeah. And don't forget, you're also dealing with an environment, and we're all talking football here at the moment, but you could, you know, open up to broader society. This is why there's so much fear about us, because once we do get our foot in the door, what you're then doing is taking away some privilege from those people that have had it for so long.
100%.
Yeah. So they're actually very, very, very concerned about their own scenarios. Yeah. I say this. I mean, we talked about the FA chairman that got moved on, having had form. Troy is absolutely right. I sometimes question, would he have got the boot if we weren't in the year that we've had, where it was about Black Lives Matter and George
Absolutely
Floyd, etc. I tend to think that he might have got away with it again. But the year that we're all in and we've all suffered and we've all struggled with, actually put him under the microscope more so than if it happened in 2019. So,
Rodney, can I ask you a question quickly? The subject on Terry Henry disbanding his social media. You get to meet the players after the game. You have a chance of speaking to them. Does that mean when players like Terry Henry says, "I've had enough of social media," would that affect your role in reporting? Because they obviously have
not really, Robbo. Not really, because you know Thierry Henry coming off social media is a story in itself. Does it make sense? So it's a little bit like if Zaha doesn't want to take the knee while everybody else is still doing that, it's still a story. So we can spin it however we like. All I can say about Thierry Henry, well done to him. And secondly, I think others will follow. I think Gareth Bale suggested that during one of the Welsh games. I know that Manchester United as a club are encouraging their players to.
They've just got a new initiative, Rudders, to
absolutely
for anti-racism. Man United
and Arsenal have got the same thing as well. So what it means is that sometimes you need a catalyst, and that catalyst is Thierry Henry. And even when he was playing, I don't know if anyone remembers, he was actually involved with Rio Ferdinand back in the day when he was playing in a campaign called something like Time to Speak Up or something of that. The word speak was in there. Because I went to one of those press conferences and it was Thierry Henry and Rio Ferdinand. So it shows you, if Thierry Henry was playing and involved in that campaign, look where we are now. Thierry Henry isn't even a player anymore, clearly, and he's not even managing anymore, but he's still getting abuse. And enough for him to make the decision that he's made. And I think other players will make it as well. So, listen, well done to him, and I hope others take the lead. But we need to hurt the social media companies.
Yeah, how significant is it going to be, though? If we get, we've got Henry at the moment. If we get Rashford and Sterling and people like that coming off of social media,
ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
Stand up, speak up. That's right. Thank you, Master Blaster. Thank you. Yeah, stand up.
It ain't gonna happen, Daddy Ernie. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. People use social media for different things. Okay, and Marcus Rashford did a Q&A on Thursday on Twitter, and he was asked if he would take the same stance as Thierry Henry, and he said, no, I use my Twitter to bring people together. And that's his right, and he can do that.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw a little bit left field. I'm going to throw a little bit left field here and say, isn't it great that everyone's coming out collectively at the moment and talking about the social media platforms and how much they're not doing enough in the game and how they could do better and stop, this racial abuse towards black players? But every time it happens on the pitch and every time it happens in the stands directed to those same black players, there's never a collective force. There's never a conversation collectively by the game that we need to rid ourselves of racism. So I'm rolled out to talk about how bad it is, and then I'm getting told off from behind closed doors, he needs to shut up. So actually, I'm not even enjoying this period of time, because football is great at talking outwardly. Let's kill social media. Let's make sure Facebook and them are held accountable. But when it's happening in their own stadiums, when the Leeds goalkeeper is racially abusing Jonathan Lecco, and everyone wants to go hide behind the settee because, oh no, it's another case of racism on our door. How do we deal with this? Until football can come out and talk to itself and judge itself that it hasn't done enough in this space. And that's why we still have fan-on-player abuse. That's why we still have player-on-player abuse. Until it can do that, then actually I don't want to hear the noise about social media.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right, but I'm just going to repeat what I said. The problem that we have is that in those so-called powerful offices, right, there isn't enough people that look like us, sound like us, and understand what it means to be abused.
There's one or two, Rod. There's one or two, Rod. There's
one or two. I use it like the Lewis.
But they're not singing this. They're not singing the right song.
I use it like the Lewis Hamilton scenario. Yes, 7 times world champion, fantastic. But what we actually need is more black drivers on the grid, and that's the same with football. We need more people in those offices, right, who control stuff. But we're going to struggle, because if we want to talk about it, where are the black managers? Where are the black coaches? That's a struggle in its own right. And
how do you think? How do we get to that point where that conversation is more challenging? Because as you said, Thierry Henry coming off social media was a story within a story. You mentioned it, and obviously Troy's been mentioning Rashford sticking up for social media. But how do we actually get to the point where we're pricking that boy right in the middle? Where are we going with this?
You know what my suggestion is? I wish one black player who's been abused on a pitch would simply just walk off. I think that would be such a just walk them off, right? And once they walk them off, all right, and have the collective support of the teammates, where the whole team walk off, that will bring to the attention of the notice, right, of the governing bodies that, you know what, if this happens and if you don't do something about it, then you know what's going to happen. The very fabric of the game, right, will basically be destroyed. So I would love to see. I personally would love to see when it happened in Bulgaria. Remember it happened in Bulgaria to
PSG.
Mings.
2019.
I think the governing bodies are scared, because if it was me, the first thing I would have said, right, Bulgaria, you're expelled. You've seen what's happened to Russia when they've been kicked out of international competition, how it's hurt them. And what they should do is basically say, you do this, guess what? You're out.
Yeah, but and Shaun, with all due respect, you're doing that thing that I see people do all the time. You're taking it for granted that the people who are indeed running those organizations come from the same place as you, have the same intention as you, and recognize the same thing as you. Who was it? Danny Rose, who said clubs get fined what I would spend on a night out. That's not serious. If I've watched it where one player walks off and the captain goes to him and says, no, that's not the right way to deal with it. Come back on the thing.
It's got to be the collective support and the collective effort. And that's what I'm saying to you. Right. And you know what? Guess what? If the team walk off and that's it, the game's abandoned.
Yeah, but you keep talking about the team. The player walks off, and the player gives himself a reputation for the rest of his life.
Right. Sometimes it takes a brave action, right, to make change. That's why Colin Kaepernick, right, sacrificed his career, right, and it led to a situation whereby around the world people took the knee. Now, as I say, the effectiveness of taking the knee now, right, has been so diluted. I can understand. Okay, taking the knee, has it made real change to the FA? No. Has it made the fact that, as Eddie quite rightly points out, right, they're going to take an inward look at themselves and basically say, we need, as an organisation, right, to radically change, to be reflective of the society in which we're supposed to serve, right, and that's where we'll have a proper decision making in terms of trying to eradicate this decision. So I personally think sometimes it's going to take a brave individual or a brave team to basically say, you know what, guess what, we're out of here, and for the governing body to say, right, Bulgaria, right, you're expelled from all international competition, right, for 8 years. Do you remember when Chile? Remember when the goalkeeper cut himself and he cheated? Yeah. Chile missed 2 World Cups. They missed 2 World Cups.
England were also, do you remember how mad we went for Bulgaria? And then people like me were going, hold on, you're cussing Bulgaria, and the same thing is happening here.
Yeah, on your doorstep.
Eddie,
the same thing is happening here.
That's what we're all saying, and that's why I said to you earlier how they love to talk outwardly.
It happens
they
here,
never do it here.
It happens in a professional football situation. If it happens on a Sunday football pitch, it doesn't make a difference. That's what the collective action should be taken. Right, that's it. We're out. Don't play this.
Can I ask you guys all your opinions on the? We've done it before. The taking the knee. Obviously, there's teams that are not taking the knee, individual players that are not taking the knee. Can we say if this international break is over and we get back to playing the Premiership and the Championship, if all the teams just got up and not taking the knee, do you think it would make a difference?
As I said earlier, it would still be a story, though, wouldn't it? I mean, let's just use Wilfried Zaha as an example, and Troy might be able to underpin this for me because of his closeness to that football club. Wilfried Zaha and the likes of Lyle Taylor are not necessarily against the bigger picture of what we're trying to do here, but they don't necessarily want to take to front up by not taking the knee. Will Zaha is one of the most coolest guys in the world and has a very strong view. And by the way, has been one of the most abused players in recent times. He just doesn't want to take a knee to be recognized for his views and his action. But as I said, he stood up when everybody else was taking the other day, and it still got attention. It was still bringing and highlighting the problems that we have. So
I noticed the cameras didn't focus on him too much.
The one thing I'm concerned about, guys, I think it's fantastic that we took the knee to basically show the support. But what I don't want it to turn into is a gesture which becomes empty and has no meaning, and has no effect.
Agreed.
All right?
Agreed.
And as I say, the only way you can have effect is by firm, direct action. To bring it to the attention. If you do this, guess what? We're coming off. FA, what are you going to do about it? UFA, what are you going to do about it?
Okay, listen, nothing. I know Troy's going to chip in here, but I just Shaun's point, I can understand it. We talked at the start of the show about the big game of the weekend, certainly in terms of clubs and their reputations, not currently doing what they need to do. Arsenal, Liverpool. Guys, what sort of images will be relayed around the world, what sort of effect do you think we'd have around the world if the players or a player was abused tomorrow night and they walked off the field of play, Arsenal and Liverpool players together? What sort of effect do you think that would have on the game?
I think that would have a fantastic effect. Yeah,
devastating.
Exactly. And you know why? Because the TV deals that are worth billions would mean that the Premier League is not providing, what the countries are paying for around the world.
Yeah.
If you start getting these Super Sunday or big Saturday night games where en masse the players are walking off, when it starts affecting the ching and the business side of things, trust me, things will get sorted out sooner rather than later, in my opinion. Yeah,
but everything comes at its time. What happened with Suarez and Evra? Somebody put it on there. Didn't Liverpool latterly have to come out and apologise for how appallingly they dealt with that? Yeah, didn't they all have? Didn't they all have T-shirts supporting Suarez?
Yeah, but as you said it though, Liverpool handled that very, very poorly, didn't they? Come on.
And do you remember what happened when they met again? And do you remember what happened when they met again? When Evra put his hand out to stop Suarez, he just blanked him.
That's right.
It was but what you do when you get a racist, right, and you support him like that, you empower him, you embolden him. So he felt that Evra had done something wrong, not Suarez. And so that's the only way you can do something like that, because you and me would be holding our head in shame.
How many games banned did he have? Games was he banned for?
7 or something.
8.
Was
7.
8.
8.
It'd be different now, though.
No, they don't.
No, I think if he
that
went
same situation, which was 9 years ago, and the situation last year with the Leeds goalie Casilla and Jonathan Lecco, he got an 8-match ban. We have not moved on. We're handing out the same punishments in 2020, 2021 as we were handing out in 2011. So if there's what it is, and by the way, by the time he served that ban, it was about 3 weeks later with all the games that they had to play. And then ultimately, Leeds gave him the captain armband as a show of support for him as an individual. So yes, the Liverpool one was a disgrace, but actually it's still a disgrace because Leeds backed their goalkeeper. Everyone knew what he said. He called Jonathan Lecco the N-word. Everyone heard it. Leeds denied that it even happened. And for me, you don't just ban the player. You now start taking the football club into account as well. Yeah. And you deal with the football club, whether that's point deductions, whether that's large fines. You know, we're talking about the same thing we've been talking about.
That's if you're serious, Troy. Yeah, but they're not serious. Yeah, but I'm not saying you're. Please forgive me if it's coming across wrong, Troy. I'm 100% with you and Shaun. I'm just saying, unless, as Rodney says, you got people in the boardroom to explain what's going on, why we like planting at the table, why you don't put your shoes on the table, why you got Saturday clothes, then they don't understand. Nuance isn't something that comes across. Yeah, you just sound like another angry black man.
Yeah, but as Rodney made the point, right? If Rodney made the point, if teams walked off, right, and basically the TV companies were pumping millions in, right?
Yeah, that one I agree with. Yeah,
right. That's going to basically make the FA take up notice and basically say, guess what? Revenue's draining from our game. So, guess what? We need to now take affirmative action. Right. You do that.
Yeah,
we're not banning you for 8 games. We're not banning you for 8 games. We're banning you for a season. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that,
listen, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Sure. Any such punishment would stand up in any court of law in relation to whether or not it's an unreasonable restraint of trade, because I don't think it would be.
Shaun, I agree with you. I want to see it happen, but PSG walked off the pitch. They rearranged the game. It was back on.
Yeah, listen, and listen. Everyone's view. I always say that I never like to disagree with anyone because everyone's view tonight is valid. Okay, but let's take this into account, and this goes beyond the footballing environment. So, the young man that racially abused and threatened Ian Wright's family. Okay, so he racially abused Wrighty. He then threatened his family as well. So, Shaun, I don't know how many multiple offences that is, but it's a few.
Yeah.
Because Wrighty is a nice person, okay, and said that he would forgive him, okay, for what he put down and sent to him via a DM. The judge that had him in the court law said he has suffered enough. He's suffered enough, and he's almost given him a glowing reference, and he let the man walk free. So if we're going to let people walk free for hate crime, and if we're going to let them walk free for I don't know what the threats constitute, because I'm not a legal person, then we're not treating this situation in the manner in which it should. Now, if it was the other way around, you telling me that Wright is walking free?
No. Well, that's why I was
Wright is not walking free. So,
that's why I was vexed, Troy, with Wrighty, because I couldn't understand what Wrighty said.
Yeah, but why are we getting vexed with Wrighty? It's not Wrighty, it's the system. The system.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have given him. He should have let it go through the system.
That's not our job, Ernie. That's not our job to tell another grown man how to react to a situation that's impacted on him and his family. You got to allow him to deal with it in that way. There's another sporting story. I think that you're right about the money. I'll shut up a minute. Sorry, Ernie. That is right. There's a story that in a podcast they were talking about how dark they like their toast, and in the podcast they said, I'd go to a Hailey Berry dark, but I would never go to a Serena Williams dark, right? And what happened was the sponsors of the show heard it, they pulled their money, they sacked the guy. It's all about money. Anything we are talking about this podcast today, forget it. It's all about money. If you can strike at the money, then you will get change. Not goodwill.
Totally agreed.
So hold on.
And that's why the connecting piece of walking off the pitch does that. Because if Sky Sports are just about to go live to the Emirates, okay, and the Liverpool and Arsenal players are not there, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're in the changing room. They said, "No, we're not coming out today. We're not coming out today."
Yeah,
so I tell you what, we're going to put our clothes back on and we're gone. What are they going to do?
Yeah,
they can find them. Yeah, they'll find them. But now the story, which, and remember, we don't have to wait for our newspapers no more. I don't want to do Rodney out of business, but we don't have to wait for our newspapers no more.
It'd be trending. It'd be trending.
It'd be trending.
And what it does now, what it says, it then turns the spotlight right on the powers that be. What are you going to do about this now?
That's what we don't do, Shaun. That's what we don't do. We don't do it. We don't turn the spotlight. So the original question was about taking the knee. That's the wrong question. It's the wrong question. I don't care if man sits down. I don't care if man sits in the dugout, stands up. Well, it's the wrong question. The question is, what are you doing? Why the players are having to do this? Why should Thierry Henry have to come off of all those platforms? He shouldn't have to come off those platforms. But social media has let him down. So he's decided that, right, this is what I'm going to do. Hopefully some people will join me. But let's not turn the focus on Henry. Let's turn the focus on the social media companies.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I'm sure you guys, all of you have been in it. I got my first racial abusive message this week. It was strange.
Right, so can I ask you a question? Robbo, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question then? How did it feel? And how long did it last? Whatever you felt, how long did it last?
It troubled me for about a minute when I looked at the text and I looked at obviously go to the profile of the young man that abused me. He's from Leicester. Not that makes a difference. And
what's he say?
I actually felt a bit of pity for him.
What's he say?
Well, I obviously was talking about the situation with the report, and he basically said, "Oh, do you know what? You black guys, you need to get out of London more. Maybe you'll stop killing each other." And I reported it. I left it up there. I reposted it, and I left it up on Twitter because I wanted people to see what kind of fool we're dealing with. I mean, it's
and I bet it's a person, right, who's hiding behind the anonymity of the computer. You don't know
what flag do you think he had? And he wasn't Chelsea. Don't worry, Shaun. Do you know what he had? Because you're Shaun. He had the England flag, and it was just like I looked at it and I had a bit of pity for him. I just thought, Let me tell you something now. Let me tell you something now. You see,
we're not fully out of lockdown yet. If we ever get back to how society was before last March, I'm going to tell all of you, be careful, because at the moment we are in a massively divisive country, massively divisive. Everything from Black Lives Matter to black people getting roles that people feel they shouldn't be getting, to the tokenism, to this report. It's going to be wild out there, you know. The vaccine. Definitely. Yeah, it's going to be wild out there, you know. It's going to be wild. So I tell everybody, watch yourself, you know.
We can handle that. We can handle that because we've handled it before, right? In the
same. But you don't want to, Ernie.
No. I don't want to.
No, we don't want to handle it. We don't, because we're a bit older. But if it, you see, if a man abused me on Twitter or anything, to me that just comes off of my back and own business, because he ain't got the front to come and see me to my face to tell me, because he's getting right.
I bet if you come check you with a bottle of rare nephew, you'd be all right. You sit down with me. I know you know, Ernie. I know you, Ernie. And listen, we're not gonna hang on. I was just gonna say we're not gonna end this subject. I mean, the points that's coming from Shaun and Troy and Eddie is blinding, and I really wanted to today, obviously, for us to focus a lot about what happens in the game, and here we are, we're talking about it, and we can see from the messages that people are quite enjoying it. The solutions, we'll be here for another 2 hours if we get the solutions. But listen, guys, I want all of you guys to stick around, because we have on the show joining us today. I'm not going to make a big song and dance about it. The Ledge is in the house. 79 times for England, playing over 300 times for Liverpool. He's won it wasn't the Premiership, the English Championship twice. Player of the Year, 1987. He's a legend.
Robbo, mention this. He also beat the Dark Destroyer on the chase. Tell him that.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm sure we're going to get to that.
And he's got
Player of the Year. I can't believe that he was only Player of the Year once, when he had 2 blinding seasons for Liverpool. But anyway,
I thought he won in 1988 and 1990. He did win the year twice.
Knowledge.
Yeah. Sit down, Robert. Sit down.
No.
He's got the book open right now on that page. You know. Yeah.
Is it twice?
Yeah, 1988, 1990.
No, what I said was I'm surprised he didn't win it the following year. That's what I said.
I remember they couldn't win the following year. They couldn't, because as Rodney will tell you, on the 26th of May, 1989, it's up for grabs.
But listen, he played a blinder. Listen, rewind the tape. If you didn't believe in the words of Daddy Ernie, rewind the tape. Right, we're going to talk about that. He's in the house. The legend. What's this?
Don't trouble me, yeah? Heard I see a cup. You're from a little bit. I've been up to the
Shaun doesn't need the book. Shaun has got it right up there. He was right. 1989 when we were robbed. When Arsenal robbed us, we forgot about 1989. We just went straight to 1990.
That's a great start.
I couldn't believe it.
That's a great start.
I remember Steve McMahon going, one more minute. Right?
Steve McMahon.
Who's got it to Lukic? Got that to what's the name? Great control by Smithy. And he's up my ground.
Smithy never going to touch. We needed VAR. We wanted VAR.
It's a great finish. I'm telling you.
Hey, good evening, John. I'm sure that wasn't the worst moment in your life.
When you got young kids, you got issues. I know you gentlemen have got all grown-up children, so you don't have those issues. But I got some young kids.
I know that wasn't your gentlemen. No problem. I know that wasn't your worst. We need some more volume on your mic, John.
I'm sorry.
John, you have to turn up the mic. You have to turn up your volume.
I was going to say, John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We want some more clarity. I was about to say that wasn't your worst moment for Liverpool. I mean, you've described losing in the FA Cup as probably a more harsher beating than the losing to Arsenal. Is that still the same?
I think so, yeah. And I'll tell you why. Wimbledon were a top 10 team, so it's not as if, Wimbledon, it's in terms of the size of the clubs, yes, it's a huge upset. But Wimbledon were regularly in the top 10 of the top division, so that wasn't as big an upset as if you lost to a second division team. However, when people talk about if you had to play one game again, and you say go back to that Arsenal game or go back to the Wimbledon game, I would choose the Wimbledon game. Because Arsenal, people don't remember that year of Hillsborough, when we lost to Arsenal in that last game of the season, we had about 5 games to make up because we didn't play for 2 months. So we had to play about 4 or 5 games in less than 3 weeks. And we beaten, I think it was West Ham just before the Arsenal game, 4-0, to then mean that we had a better goal difference. So we went into that Arsenal game knowing that we could even have lost 1-0. I think if we went into that game needing to win or needing to not to lose, but we even knew we could have lost. And the emotion of Hillsborough, going through everything we went through, having to play 5 games, that really just caught up with us. Whereas the Wimbledon game, whereby it's an FA Cup final under normal circumstances, that is the one that really rankles with me. Yeah, the Arsenal one, yes, we could have done the double, and that happened. But the Wimbledon game was the one for me.
Wow. I mean, you've had highs and lows in the game, but we want to concentrate on a lot of what we were talking about, what's happening currently now. You know, your record, what you've done, how you set the English game alight, and currently, Troy mentioned we need faces. We need poignant names and faces in prominent places. And I mean, we're happy to have you here, but why haven't we seen you in those places?
I've been listening to for the last 10 minutes I've been on, and what has happened with this report, for me, has put, forget race relations, I'm talking about the fight for racial equality back decades. Now, we will know what goes on in football, and we like to focus on what happens in football. But what has happened in terms of the report, first of all, saying that institutional and systemic racism doesn't exist in certain parts of society, the parts of society that are untouchable, whereas football will always get mentioned. And the weak people in football, 12-year-old fans, Bulgaria, some stupid idiot on social media, we're not holding to account the system that is institutionally racist. And that has put it back. And I would like footballers, yes, talk about alternatives in football and Bulgaria, but if you look at what Marcus Rashford did in terms of changing policy, if footballers were to come out and say they're not happy with this report, because it's not going to affect them. It's not going to affect them. It's going to affect the 90% of people in the community who are still going to be stopped by the police, still can't get an education, and it is going to be now enshrined in, not law, but enshrined in people's belief that there's no racism apart from now in football or on social media. And if footballers were to come and use their voice to talk about that now, and look at the impact that Marcus Rashford had, they would have to do something about that. And that is why I'm hoping for footballers to come out and say, yes, okay, it is terrible. And my own point on that as well, and of course, I heard someone talk to, I don't know whether it's Shaun, and they said that, oh, you know, that the racist fan who abused you, Robbo, didn't have a Chelsea top on. As if Chelsea fans aren't racist or Liverpool fans aren't racist. Listen, this is the way it is. Any footballer who's been abused, who wants to then support his team and his teammates because the opposition has abused him, his players, his friends, his teammates, his fans do the exact same thing. And that's what we have to understand, rather than pointing the finger at any particular individual. So football, of course, has a big part to play. But I think that footballers now, with their voice that they actually have, can do more than just talk about how terrible it is in football. And I think because of this report, they have to do it.
You know, John, one of my most favorite photographs of you, right, in the stand against racism, right, was when they threw the banana and you flicked it. And that will always be in my mind in relation to the way in which you dealt with it.
Yeah, but Shaun, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm a particular age, I'm a particular area. You listen to Daddy Ernie. Nobody on social media can come send up to him, right? Because this is, if you're a particular age or if you're a particular character and you've been through what certain people have been through, this is what we do. So therefore, it doesn't affect us in that way. But this is a new age whereby the younger generation may be affected by it. So you really do have to, and you know the nuances of it, as was mentioned. So we do have to look at different, we can't just say that, well, if it was us, because I say that all the time, if it was me, it can't affect me at all because I feel empowered. Nobody can racially abuse me and make me feel inferior. That's me. That's the way I've been brought up. That's my experience. That's my environment. That's me being a middle-class Jamaican who probably... I think it applies to everybody on this channel. I think it applies to everybody on this channel. I don't know who said that when they talk about I like my color more Halle Berry than more Serena. As a light-skinned Jamaican, growing up in Jamaica in the 70s, this is how you have to look at the elite aspect of it as well. This is the fact. This is how some black people see the situation as well. Yeah. So it's not so this is what we have to come to terms with. It's not just about, you know, white on black. We also have been traumatized ourselves in terms of seeing certain people, particularly from an elite point of view, of being better than others. Now look at Harry and Meghan wanting to go to a country where they feel they won't get as much racist abuse. And where do they go to? America, probably the most racist country in the world. But they feel that the racist abuse is worse in England. And here we've just passed, a committee has just reported that England is no systemic racism. Because in America, if you're black and you have money, because of course, here the class and race dynamic is much bigger than in America. If you're black and you have money, they accept you. But in terms of what happens here, it is worse.
John, you use your social media. Obviously, we talked about Terry Henry coming off social media, and Rodney saying that it made news. It's bigger news that it made news. You've been using your social media lately. I kind of follow you every morning after the madman comes off does the breakfast show. And you go ham, and I see the tirade you get. You just mentioned it doesn't affect you, but you're at it. Have you felt that your social media? I mean, you're doing it now, but have you felt that you being vocal on social media has made some differences?
No, it hasn't, because of course you have the deniers who will just. And that's why I'm saying this report is so damaging, because you have people thinking that there is no correlation between race and injustice or inequalities because you're not endowed to do that. And this has really just made them think that even more. So I know you're talking about Piers Morgan there, what you're talking about. And what we have to, first of all, we have to look at two things. If you go back to Harry and Meghan and you listen to what they actually said, and they actually said, we're leaving the country because of the racial abuse that we feel we're getting in terms of the perception from the media. That's the reason. But because she then said, someone in the royal family mentioned the color of the baby, we have now distracted from the systemic racist abuse that they feel they're getting from a particular institution to then say there's somebody who's racist in the royal family. Now, if you listen to what she actually said, which for me is the most damning quote in the whole thing, she said, someone in the royal family said, they're concerned about the color of the baby and the way it would look. They're not saying they're concerned about the color of the baby, as much as I'm sure they are. They'd rather have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby. But the way that it would look to who? To the country. Because they know that the country would rather have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby than a brown baby. Now, you speak to anybody in the country, what would they say? No, it doesn't matter to us. Is that the reality? So they know that people in the country are systemically racist, so they're worried about the way it would look. But we're convinced ourselves that no, it's just individuals, it's just football fans, it's just the young policeman, it is the system, it is the institutions of this country that people make up that are racially biased or sexist. And I understand why, because the way we've been brought up to think. This is the way we've been conditioned to think, and that's why you have to challenge. The committee report says now unconscious bias is now not going to be a thing because it's a waste of time. Unconscious bias should be the main thing to get people to change their perception. But now we're being told that unconscious bias is not a thing. And secondly,
John, I think,
what about the slavery point? The point on slavery, whereby slavery was not just about profit and suffering, it was also about Africans being able to transform themselves from being culturally African to being culturally British. Sorry, African and British. And it's like, hang on a second, you've enslaved me and chained me, and I'm supposed to pat you on the back because you have now made me African British? This is what was told to us 200 years ago, and that's what they're saying again now. It's crazy.
Yeah, John, I think you're right. I think what we were saying most of tonight is the fact that it is, the same thing that you're talking about with the Royals there is the fact that how this game has a wonderful way of deflecting the facts and actually presenting it on a nation or on about a platform rather than actually looking inwardly. I think that is the whole point of what we, even from your time and all the way through, football has never looked at itself and felt that we've got a problem here. It always thinks that it's an isolated issue that happens that, gets dealt with, and then, they move on, and then an incident happens again. 30 years after your incident, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's faced with a banana similar to yours, but yet everything around the game, so the media, the football clubs, the authorities, no one called it an act of racism. It was a missile thrown on the football pitch. Now, for me, if we're not going to call things out for what they are, if we're not going to identify things for what they are, then how are we ever going to make that change?
But this is an ongoing challenge every single day. What we do in football is we wait for an incident to happen, then we respond to that incident. Racism is every single day where people can't get jobs, education. This is something that is ongoing every day. But all we can do in football is wait for an incident to happen and then react to that. And if an incident doesn't happen for a month, we do nothing until another incident happens. And that is not the solution to the problem. The solution is an ongoing, everyday fight for equality. So therefore, when there's no racist incidents in football matches, I would like to see footballers talk about other issues, like what's going on in the community. You look at this. You look at the Everard. Is different, but in terms of what kind of, you look at Sarah Everard. You have 2 women killed in Wembley, two black women killed in Wembley last year. I didn't see any vigil for them. And now we're having a vigil. So and racism is the same thing. George Floyd. They had 3 people killed in police custody in England. So we like to look at America and George Floyd and say how terrible that was, but we have the same situation here up in Scotland and here in London. And this is what we have to do. We have to continually be fighting for that. And that is why footballers who have a voice, yes, you talk about what goes on in Bulgaria and what goes on with football fans, what goes on social media. But if you're aware of what actually happens in this country every single day in the inner cities, when kids can't get jobs, can't get an education, and you can see what Marcus Rashford did, as much as it's the underprivileged thing, not a race thing, but it's the same thing, underprivileged people, whether you're black or you're white, if they use their voices for that, then something can be done. You can force change. And there's one thing, as much as I'm not going to be a football manager now, I'm 58, I've had my day. What I would say to the footballers now, as much as we're taking a knee and taking a stance and talking about racism and stuff going on the field, I'll say to them, do any of you want to be football managers? Any of you want to be football managers? Because when you retire in 5 years' time, you're going to be like all of the ex-Luther Blissett, Ricky Hills, John Barnes, Sewell Regis. You're not going to be a football manager because no one's talking about that. So it's fine talking about how terrible racism is with racial abuse for black players. Black football managers, or not football managers, because we're not, are being racially abused every day because we're not being given opportunities. Now imagine if football players today were to say, listen, why aren't there any black football managers?
I understand that, but
if they say that now, maybe in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, they will be managers.
So let me give you the scenario then, and you're absolutely right, by the way, and nothing that you've said here tonight is wrong. I know, and I won't say any player or any club, but I know that players are still getting that. Would you want to be a politician or a player? Do you want to play football, or do you want to be someone who's a spokesperson? They're continually having their voices down. Some of them, I'll be honest with you, are not in match day squads because of their opinion as such. So how do we deal with situations like that when these players are still being ostracized by the system, by the clubs they're at, which actually means that they're making a decision, you know, what's the point? Is it worth it or not?
Yeah. Darren Moore said the same thing as a manager. Darren Moore actually said, you know, when I was quite outspoken about like a football manager or whatever, he said, listen, we all feel the same thing, but we know if we come out and we say that strongly, we're not going to give it a try.
I know he said it to me as well. I know.
And then what happened to him at West Brom?
There you go. JB, it's Rodney. JB, listen, I know we've spoken over the years about this subject, yeah? We've done some great work there. I know you said a minute ago that you're lost to management now, but if, say, the Football Association approached you and tried to get you on board to try and solve some of these issues, is that something you would look at?
I would find it very difficult because if they want to talk from a footballing level and a footballing perspective, I will talk football all day. I will be very professional with that. But if they then came to me and then I am representing the Football Association and an issue on race came up, I would not compromise in my views on race. And you would have to compromise. I would then have to say, yes, we're being inclusive and, you know, we're trying our best and we're doing that, knowing that that's not the case. So that is why it's difficult for me to do that. Because and they have approached me. Not only the PFA, I have been approached. But I can't get involved unless I can tell my truth.
I wouldn't. But why would you need to compromise yourself? Because if you're inside now, right? If you're actually in, you should be able to, irrespective of taking.
Shaun, it doesn't work like that. Shaun, it doesn't work like that.
Well, you know it doesn't work like that. Speaking truth to power.
That is why communism and socialism didn't work, because people feel that you can get into the system and you can change it. You have to have complete overhaul and revolution of a system to change it. You cannot change it from within. You become part of it and you'll be allowed to do certain things. They will give you little scraps. You're allowed to then point the finger at a certain group of people to get, but if you really want change for the majority, it has to be a complete overhaul, which isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And some people are quite, may go along with that, but I couldn't. You cannot change anything from within. 2,000 years of history has told us that. So because we're black, we think we're any different. It is about elite and non-elite. That's the real thing. Yes, black and white and women and men, it's elite and non-elite. And I would like to do it because I could make much more money. I could get much more prestige. That's why you're not seeing me on mainstream television as much as I've been on Sky and ITV for the last 20 years. Because if I went onto Sky and all of those pundits are now, when a banana comes on the field or any racist abuse that happens, and I'm sitting with all of those pundits who I played with, and they're saying how terrible it is, I'm going to go, well, you were exactly the same. You just never got caught. And you don't feel that the right thing to do is walk off the field. You're looking at these black players walking off the field and you're thinking they're weak, but you can't say that. You think Gareth Southgate really thinks that? You think the white players feel that, yes, you should walk off the field? Now, are they going to leave it to us to decide? Because if white players will support what we do, yes, we're going to support you. But if you say to them, what do you think the right thing to do is? Do you think they'll go, yes, we should walk off the field? No, they wouldn't, no matter what they say.
Well, England had the chance to walk off the field in Bulgaria, and they didn't.
I had to then hold the party line.
England had the chance to walk off the field in Bulgaria, okay, and they didn't. They're winning a game 3-0. Result is irrelevant, by the way. They're qualified for the tournament anyway. The abuse, so there's a 3-step protocol. That abuse continued in the second half, and Greg Clark said that it was only a few people, so it continued. They should have gone, or the decision should have been taken out of their hands by the waiter, who should have taken them off the field of play anyway. But that they wasn't, as John has just said.
If they're losing 3-0, I think they probably would have.
Yeah, you're right.
If they were losing 3-0,
but it shouldn't come down to a result. Should never come down to a result.
This is where, absolutely, Troy, I agree with you 100%. But this is where, if you look at 3 instances, and I've cited the instances, you have, I think, not Harrowborough. There was a cup final with Withenshaw. There were 4 instances where teams walked off the field. They all walked off the field when they were losing. And there's an instance when Dover played against Yorkville or one of those teams down there. And because they were winning, they said we didn't want the races to win, so we chose not to walk off the field. In every 5 instances that I've cited, if the team were losing, they decided to walk off. If they were winning, they didn't want to walk off.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's got nothing to do with what they think is the right thing to do. It's for expediency. They will use that to then say, yes. And when that Harrowborough manager says what he actually said when they walked off the field, he said, I looked into the eyes of my black players and felt I had to protect them. How often have we heard about white people protecting black people because they're so weak-minded?
Yeah. John, you mentioned not being able to, not being able, I'm pretty sure you can, you're a strong enough character, but compromising, that was a very interesting point. But what happens when voices like yourself, people with experience like yourself, who played the game, know it inside out? I hear you analyze games and you see the games, and the other host is just there going, easy, John. What happens to voices like you when you take that stance? Like, okay, I can't see myself in that role. What happens to voices? Because I'm not saying you're lost to the game.
I can see myself in a role. I can see myself in a role from a technical perspective. Talk about football tactics, system, 4-3-3, formations, what goes on, what should be done, blah, blah, blah. But of course, in this day and age, what is going to come up when England player of a club plays and anything happens from an abuse point of view, and they go, right, John, what do you think? And I'm going to go, yes, that little 12-year-old boy is terrible, because all of us in here are, we know what the right thing to do is. And, Roy Keane and Gary Neville, I love all of you, and you never racially abused anybody, and, I won't do it. So if you ask me what I think, I'll tell you what I think. So if you want to keep it strictly to football, I think I know as much as anybody else, and I can do that. But of course, that isn't what football is about now. Football is also about other aspects. I've been approached by the FA, and I will do some work with the FA on a footballing level in terms of going to speak to the kids and stuff like that. But if I'm ever asked to talk about the solution to the racial problem or racial equality, I'll have to tell people about themselves.
That's good. Troy.
Robbo, Shaun, I mean, you're in an industry where racism is higher as well in the jurisdiction, judicial. What is the difference between your area and say John and Troy's area?
No difference whatsoever. None.
I mean, how many look like
you see more QCs being appointed of colour, but when it comes to the higher echelons of the judiciary, there's nobody who sits in the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court who are black. There's about a handful, if that, I'll say a fingerful of judges who are black or from an ethnic minority background, and there is no difference.
So really, all of us here now, in all our given fields, right, at the higher end of our industry, there's nobody who looks like us. So is there any hope?
So one of the things that we have to accept is
that... Sorry. You've been on for much longer. I've just come on just now, so just give me like the two. Sorry, I don't take... The difference in football is that it's overt. The difference in football is that it's obvious. The difference in football, you can see it, you can hear it. In Shaun's industry, and anybody else's industry, it is insidious, it is implicit, it is what you can't prove. Because, of course, we do, like this reporter said, it has been proven. So Shaun can't prove that black people aren't there because they haven't called him a black so-and-so, they haven't racially abused him. Whereas in football, in our industry, it is obvious. Now, it's obvious on the ones we choose to attack. The football fan, the people on social media. It's not obvious in the high echelons of the FA because they don't racially abuse anybody. But you don't see anybody black in the high echelons of the football industry, in football clubs, in boardrooms, because that is something that you can't actually prove. Whereas you can always prove a racist fan or racism. So I think in the other industries, it's harder in your industries because at least in football, we can say it's black and white. He said something. As a journalist, Rodney, how many black journalists are there in mainstream in the mainstream? But you can't prove it because you're black because no one's racially abused you.
It's true. It's true what you're saying.
John, we talk about this like this hasn't I mean, this has been around since you first joined Liverpool. I'm a Liverpool fan, and one of the things that gets brushed under the carpet, one of your stories is like when you first came to Liverpool, the tea lady going through the canteen, offering everybody a cup of tea. She comes to John Barnes, and she's gone past you. I mean, you experienced that within like the dressing room. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that coming into the game and obviously being John Barnes, this guy, tricky winger from Watford, and being thrust into the big time, a massive club at the time. I'm sure it's no different from Raheem Sterling, but how was that experience? Tell us about that experience moving through.
I'll sum it up. When I was supposed to come to Liverpool I wasn't. They wanted me to come into January, but of course, I've stayed to the end of the season because Graham Taylor said he's going to come at the end of the season. So Liverpool fans thought I'd turn Liverpool down. So when I first went to Liverpool, there was a bit of negativity towards me before the first game because I had snubbed Liverpool, they thought. So who do I think I am? And a friend of mine who used to go to the game said from the march up until I came, the talk of John Barnes snubbing Liverpool was in the stand. He sat beside these guys. There are these two old white guys, and they used to say, we don't want John Barnes to come to Liverpool because black players don't like the cold and they're not good enough and no black players are going to make it, blah, blah, blah. So this was the talk until I'd signed. I'd signed for Liverpool. First two games were away, Arsenal away, because they had a hole in the cup. But the new team were playing so well. Everything was going so well. So the first game at home, we played against Oxford, and I scored a free kick after 14 minutes. And he said those two guys, the two white guys, he sits behind them who sat there, looked at each other after I'd scored the goal, and after 3 months earlier saying we don't want black players, they're no good, John Barnes is no good, we don't like black players, after I'd scored the goal, and as much as it sounds funny what I'm going to say, one of them looked at the other and he said, he's not as black as I thought after he scored the goal, right? Now, what it could have meant was the colour of my skin, possibly, because I'm light skinned. However, that's the reality of football. Liverpool fans love me because I played well for them. How do you think they used to treat El Hadj Diouf for other black players? They used to racially abuse those players. And when I played for Watford, they racially abused me. Now, any black player who plays for any club, and the fans say, West Ham, we love whoever we love, and so on and so. For the black players who played with them who are no good, they would get racist abuse. So the whole idea about Liverpool fans loving me, they love number 10 John Barnes who played well. If John Barnes, number 10, wasn't playing well, I would get more abuse than the white players. And that's a reality. That's the way football is. So I don't fall into this trap that they love me. Because they don't love me, because I've seen the way they treat black players who didn't play well.
Well, I remember
at my young age.
I remember the treatment you got I remember the treatment just before the San Marino game in 1993. There's a horrific abuse you got from the press and media.
Yeah.
Then you put a free kick in again, all of a sudden you're John Barnes and we love you.
Yeah.
But that is where you have to think about the influence that the media has in creating a narrative. Now, there was a story in the paper about me from Jimmy Greaves that I wasn't committed to England because I was born in Jamaica, and I used to have this banter with Brian Robson that I wanted West Indies to beat England at cricket. Now, all of a sudden, if you're not playing well, that's an issue. You think about scoring a hat-trick against San Marino, those England fans would have had a go at me. No, they wouldn't. So that is when your colour becomes a problem. Your colour becomes a problem when you're not doing well. When you're doing well, your colour is not a problem at all. And you quickly realize that when you retire, and that's what I'm saying to these players now, you think these people love you. Look what happens when you retire, and all of a sudden, you want to get a job as a manager or you want to do something else when you're not flavour of the month anymore. And this is the reality that black people go through, regardless of whether you're a superstar. How many ex-black players do you see? Like, look at Robbie Savage, for example, who was a decent enough player, but how many ex-white players who have got good profiles who never even played at any level? Which black players have that?
Yeah. When I see the selection on the TV in the media, I wonder about it. I'm not privy to know when they select you or why they select you. I mean, I remember you doing the World Cup, and I was kind of sold like you know back in South Africa they brought you along the World Cup. Your commentary and some of the things that you were saying back then was like in terms of formation and tactics. I realized back at that time you was a wonderful broadcaster. We don't see as much on the TV. Is that still down to you just being John Barnes?
Well, that's not down to me. But what has happened now is that in football now, on television now, it always comes round to the issue of, particularly talking about England, of discrimination, be it sexism, be it whatever. And of course, if I'm in Yugoslavia, if I'm doing a game in Bulgaria, and of course Bulgarian racist fans, and they ask me about that, I'm going to say, well, we aren't any different here, really. As much as we're much better at deflecting and distracting and pretending that we don't do the same thing. And all of my teammates, if I'm speaking to Gary Lineker and he's the host, I would not be able to say to Gary when he says how terrible this is, and I went through this, I'm going to go, Gary, I know, I played with you. You know what I mean? I know. So as much as people are very good now at hiding the reality of it and pointing the finger at the scapegoats who get caught, I can't do that. I can't do that. So wow. I suppose,
John.
In fact,
I'm going to do, John. I'm going to watch your reaction the next time you're on TV. I'm going to see if you're like,
Digger, how did
look? I was on Sky. With the what's it called? I was with Darren Bent and Jeff, not Stelling. The other Jeff.
Stelling.
Shreves.
Oh. Shreves.
Jeff Shreves. And the whole issue came up, and I said, well, what's the reality of the way that you view the average black person? Never mind how you like me or Darren or some other people. What's your perception of black people walking down the street? Do you see them as equal? And of course they go, yeah, of course we do. We see everybody as equal. I don't see no difference. And I'll say, well, okay. Well, because you talk about me and you talk about the things I say. Now, I remember I was a football manager. But even when I managed, the happiest time I had was when I managed Jamaica. I managed Jamaica, and those Jamaican players had faith in me. They had trust in me. So we didn't lose one game. We won 7. We drew 3. We drew with Nigeria. We drew with El Salvador. These are teams ahead of us. Because I always felt that as black footballers, because West Africans, as Caribbeans are, Jamaicans and Africans are, because we're physically able, strong, if we're organized and we're committed, we can compete with anybody. We can compete with anybody, regardless of but that's what we need, that organization. So they trusted me. Then I'm at Tranmere, and I'm talking to these players, and these players are looking at me, and they don't believe me. They don't trust me. And I said, if Jose Mourinho was in this dressing room and he said the exact same thing, or when he listened to what Mourinho and these other people, not even Mourinho, whoever, let's not even go as big as Mourinho, when they speak, people trust what they're saying. A black manager says the exact same thing, but because it's coming from him, he's not taken it the same way. They have no belief in that. So you talk about me sounding as if I'm sensible. I think I'm sensible. I think I sound more sensible than Joey Barton, but Joey Barton's still working. And when he gets the sack, you get another job. And you get another job.
Hey, don't start Ernie off. Ernie believed that you should have been he believes that you should be the Jamaica manager to this day. Ernie's been crying every day about it.
I told him the only thing about John, I told him already, and he'll tell you this. The only thing I told John, he's a fantastic bloke, but he didn't play for Manchester United. He never played for Jamaica, and he needs to manage Jamaica. I tell him that when I see him, and he'll tell you.
If Jamaica asked me, am I to play for them? By the time I already played 10 games for England, Jamaica never knew I was. My dad played for Jamaica, so they did. But Jamaica
where are you from in Jamaica? What parish are you from in Jamaica?
Kingston.
Uptown. He's uptown.
Kingston.
What's uptown? There's 14 parishes.
Upper Camp. I live by Crossroads, downtown. I went to St. George's College, so that's a nice.
His dad was.
Let
me ask a question. Was playing for Jamaica ever an option for you, or was it ever an option? Did anybody approach you?
No, it wasn't. But
and you know why, Rodney? Because
hold on, let me finish.
You talked about 1982.
Yeah,
I was never approached by Jamaica to play for them ever.
Wow.
And if you had been approached,
I was never approached because at that time that would have been a decision I would have had to make, but it wasn't because I was playing for England. By the time I was 19 years old, I'd been playing professional football for less than 2 years. And don't forget, this is a time when, of course, my dad's famous in Jamaica, so they knew Colonel Barnes was a diplomat up there. His son's playing for Watford. England's asked him to play, but we knew that my dad used to coach Jamaica in the 70s. He was president of the JFF, but there wasn't even a conversation because for Jamaica to even say. This thing about English players playing for Jamaica is really since, when we went to the World Cup in '98, it was really the mid-90s was the first time that Jamaica started to look to see whether they had players outside of Jamaica who had a possibility of playing for Jamaica. Up until then, it was only local players. It wasn't even an idea to see if we could get players. But what Captain Burrell did was leading up to '98, he felt, well, first to qualify because it's hard against Mexico and USA and the Central American countries. But if we can get some good English players in Jamaican parentage, then we have a chance. So 95, 96 is when that first started, and the English player to come and play for Jamaica. I was playing in 1982, 83. That wasn't even a question.
And remember,
can I ask a question? Sorry, that's true.
Remember, Rodney, when once you got in England, once you were capped for one nation, that was it. You couldn't switch, and there wasn't a rule whereby if you're friendly, you could then switch allegiances. And taking up John's part about the English players, I remember when Robbie Earle played in the England B International, right, in a friendly. Then he realised that I'm so far removed from getting into the England squad. Guess what? I've been approached by Jamaica. They stand a good chance of playing in the World Cup in '98. You know what? I'm playing for Jamaica. And what happened? He scored the first ever goal in the World Cup for Jamaica.
Well, one of the things that I'm sure John had that when he was coaching, that there was resentment because players like I think it was only Robbie Earle. He did the World Cup and he disappeared. He didn't want to represent Jamaica after the World Cup. He didn't bother to turn up to any of the friendlies. Did you get that resentment when you came in as the manager? I mean, you're John Barnes. You were obviously a star back then. Was there any resentment for you becoming the manager of Jamaica?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't because of my family history. My dad had coached in Jamaica. So we have quite a strong family history and connection with Jamaica, politically as well, with the PNP party, my mother's family starting it. So we have a real connection, the family does, with Jamaica. So, I wasn't born in England, brought up in England, now coming to coach Jamaica, having not had a history in Jamaica. A lot of my school friends were politicians. So I had that connection with Jamaica. So they were quite exciting, and I was excited, and I wanted to stay. We had qualified for the Gold Cup for the first time in a long time. We won the Caribbean Cup, and of course, I don't know if you know Jamaican football politics, very much like African football politics. My contract was up in the May. The Gold Cup's in the June, and I kept saying to them, I would like to extend my contract because I haven't got a contract to go to the Gold Cup. I've qualified for the Gold Cup because it was a 1-year contract. And it was like, yeah, man, sort out soon. Last game. Panama was the last game 3 weeks before the Gold Cup. I still didn't have a contract. Tranmere had come to ask me if I wanted to sign for them a month earlier. And I said, listen, I'm going to go to the Gold Cup. I want to stay with Jamaica, but they haven't offered me a contract. And even I said to them, I want to go to the Gold Cup with Jamaica. Jamaica haven't offered me a contract for the Gold Cup or even after the Gold Cup. So am I going to turn Tranmere down? Tranmere even said, okay, well, you can go to the Gold Cup. It finishes in end of July. You won't start preseason with us. Come and start in August. And I was like, well, if Jamaica offered me a 2-year contract to go to the World Cup, I'll do that. But I'll just go to the Gold Cup and then come and join Tranmere. Up until the last game against Panama, we beat them 3-2 at home. First time Jamaica beats Panama. In the press conference, I've been told the Gold Cup is the next tournament. I still wasn't out for the contract. And I said to Captain Burrell, Captain, what is happening with this contract? Do you want me? My contract's up, but I've qualified for the Gold Cup. He says, yes, we're going to sort it out. We're going to sort it out. And I said to him, Tranmere have come and offered me a contract. I can't turn Tranmere down when I haven't got a contract with you, but I'm willing to do that if I'm going to go to the Gold Cup. But Tranmere have offered me a contract. In the press conference, straight after we beat Panama 3-2 for the first time, he has said that, and Tranmere have said to me, even if they don't offer you a longer contract, you can still go to the Gold Cup and come to join Tranmere after, which I told Captain Burrell, and I said to him, but I'd rather, because A, they were paying $250,000 a year, Jamaica, $250,000, less than Simoes, but that's what I'm getting paid. Tranmere offered me a contract for £40,000 a year for 2 years, and I'm going to stay with Jamaica if they offer me a contract, because it's not as if Tranmere are going to pay me more money, but I haven't got a choice. I'm going to be unemployed. And in the press conference, he said, well, because Tranmere have come and offered John a contract, we don't think he's going to be committed going to the Gold Cup. So therefore, he won't be going to the Gold Cup, and Theodore Whitmore would take him to the Gold Cup. Why that was because, as you know, in what happens a lot when for Jamaican players to be able to get a work permit, they need to play for the national team. Okay. And to play 3/4 of the game over a 2 or 3 year period. The Gold Cup. Now, the players I were picking, some people weren't happy with that. So they wanted to take certain other players there, whereas I was picking the players that I wanted to pick. So I didn't go to the Gold Cup. Jamaica went there, got knocked out in the first round. The players that they took, I wouldn't have taken, but they needed certain players being there for the. This is what I'm talking about, the politics of it. So I would love to have coached Jamaica, because I really felt, you're looking at when we played Nigeria, they had Sunday Elise, the big boy from Chelsea in centre midfield, who was a young kid. What's his name? Centre midfield. The midfielder. Yeah. Mikel. Yeah, for Chelsea. He used to play for Chelsea with Frank Lampard. Obi Mikel. You see how big Obi Mikel is? And this Nigerian team, you see how physical they are. Danny Shitu was playing at the back. You see the size of Danny? Danny Shitu, so this is a big physical team. Nigeria. Yeah? Not for us. Because you know Jamaicans. Honestly, we're playing against Nigeria, and it's like, honestly, because you know Jamaicans are rough. I mean, they roughed up the Nigerian team, and to rough up a Nigerian team. And that's why if you're physically and you're strong and you can do that, so Jamaicans can achieve if you get them organized. And I was really excited about managing Jamaica. I didn't even have a lot of the English-based players then. I had a lot of the Jamaican players, because the Jamaican players in Jamaica, as you can see, Luton Shelton, a lot of them. Theodore Whitmore himself, when he came to Tranmere, he could have played in the Premier League. If you know Tapper as a footballer, Theodore Whitmore played for Tranmere. Theodore Whitmore could have played for Liverpool with his technique. I'm telling you, he was a great player, but because he's from Jamaica, they don't respect him, so he plays for Tranmere. And this is what I felt moving forward with his Jamaica team. If we could then go through to the World Cup, we could have easily qualified for that World Cup. And
what do you think about this Jamaica team now, John? We saw them the other night against USA.
Yeah, that wasn't when they lost 7-1.
No, was it 7?
4-1.
No. I'm talking about. 3 or 4 months ago, before the lockdown, they lost. That was the problem you have now with the Jamaica team. It's not a settled team, and it's players who sometimes come and play. Sometimes it's a little bit like when they were committed for the World Cup in the '98 with Robbie Earl, and they were committed because they wanted to go to the World Cup. After that, they weren't committed. Now what happens is sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Do they respect the local players? Because, of course, we know the way they treat local players. It's the harmony, very much like in Africa. The harmony is not right, because if you get the harmony and organization right, they'll be fine.
John, you left Jamaica, and you took, it was rough. You had a rough few months at Tranmere, and that
only 2 months is right. Only 2.
Yeah. and Troy, I'm sure Troy will chime in on this. It almost kind of set the die. That was the cast. John Barnes. Every time the mention of football managers come up, it was your moment with Troy. Troy will chime in on this.
All I'm saying is
just
deemed as failure. When black managers, black coaches, this is my opinion, are deemed to foul, the opportunities drop 1,000%. When white managers deemed to foul, they get another job, equivalent or better, until they foul. At the moment, we're talking about Adi Boothroyd, who manages the England under-21 stars, and I'm going to call them stars, young stars, and has done for quite a long time. He was a manager that got sacked in League One, sacked in League Two, and then got given an England opportunity for the under-20s and then promoted to the 21s. That's what happens to white managers, white coaches. Black managers get a label, and once they get that label, it goes like wildfire. That's the way it is for me anyway. Darren Moore, you know, who came in and did ever so well for West Bromwich Albion, who refused to sack Alan Pardew until it was right late. Darren Moore nearly saved them up on the last day of the season. In the Championship, he's in fourth. He's in the running. He can get automatic promotion, or he could get, you know, via the playoffs. He gets sacked. His next job is Doncaster in League One. Yeah. Things like that just don't make sense to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. At Celtic, when I was at Celtic, I had the second highest win percentage after Jock Stein, 65%. You look at it now. Who was up? Martin O'Neill had a higher win percentage when he came, spent lots of money. Brendan Rodgers and Neil Lennon, because Rangers have been relegated, but had a 65% win record. 65%. Steven Gerrard's win percentage now, after 3 years, and everything he's done now, is 67%. So I got sacked with a 65% win record because we lost Inverness County Thistle. 65%, which is a high percentage, but as Troy says, he's 100% right. Football fans feel that I say that black managers, you know, don't get jobs or whatever. I said, listen, white managers are going to get the sack, but black managers get sacked quicker. They're given less time to fail, not less time to be successful, less time to fail. So a black manager who gets sacked, he'll get sacked after 10 games. A white manager will get sacked, but he'll get 20 games, and he'll get another chance. He'll get another opportunity. And what I say is, what we have to say as black managers, because of course, once you then say we can be as good as any white manager, that's the wrong thing to say, because people are going to go, oh, you think you can be as good as Arsene Wenger or Mourinho, blah, blah, blah. What I say is we can be as bad as any white manager. Meaning there are lots of bad white managers who get jobs and fail and get jobs and get jobs. I can do that.
Someone just
I can get a job, fail and lose all my games and get another job if that's what the criteria is.
John, someone just posted that. Do you feel like the stigma of Tranmere and Celtic is that you just mentioned it, but do you think that stigma still rides?
Stigma.
Listen, the stigma isn't any different for me than any other black manager. Because how many black managers? Ricky Hill, I can tell you now, Ricky Hill would be a fantastic manager. I used to sit down with Glenn Hoddle and Ricky Hill and talk about football. And when you talk about a man who knows football, knows systems, and when he did in America, knows it. But this is where we also have to look at the dynamic of British as we are. Because it's okay for Tigana and Ruud Gullit and Nuno Gomez, because they're intelligent, because they speak 5 languages. It's okay for them to be black. But how do we feel about our own? And we see that in white English managers as well. They're not being given opportunities. So I'm saying if Alan Pardew and David Moyes and Sam Allardyce says, and they say this on record, that white English managers are being discriminated against, and people accept that. Gareth Southgate mentioned it implicitly when he talked about when Mason Mount is picked by Tuchel, people say he's a good player, meaning when Frank Lampard did it, because he's English, which is what he implied. So if that is, people accept that, knowing the history of racism and racial bias, why can't we accept when a black manager says that it's due to racial bias that I'm not being given an opportunity? People go, no, that's an excuse. Well, say that to David Moyes and all of them as well.
Yeah.
Do you see any?
It's the Tranmere one. It's the Tranmere more than Celtic. Celtic was, I mean, as I said, if you analyze 11 of the first 13, 65% win rate, that had a lot to do with politics. So that, not so much as people say it's the worst in history. But 65%, I was the second after Jock Stein, best Celtic manager in terms of win record. Now 2 have overtaken me. But Tranmere was 11 games. I had 11 games at Tranmere, won 3, drawn 1, lost 6. So I was third from bottom. So after this is in November. So I can imagine if you go through to January, February, but this is after 11 games where people already made their mind up because it was like, well, we don't believe in him.
So, John, now you actually came to Leary Constantine in your early days before you went Sudbury Court. I remember you coming down there. At Leary Constantine.
He stayed in Sudbury Court, son.
You weren't as good as me, but you was all right. You managed to get to Sudbury Court. Now, do you ever see the time where we can get a black team, a black consortium together and have a black football club? Because that's what we done back then. I mean,
professionally. You mean professionally? You talk about professionally or?
it's got to start somewhere, innit? So you know, even if it's
semi-pro, it's the end game professionally or just a black team like NMB or
professionally, because
no, you can't
right.
Because you can't choose players just because they're black, and you can't only say we're only going to sign black players.
No, we ain't saying that. We're not saying that because when we was at Constantine, we had some white players there as well. But how Constantine came about is because we wasn't getting the opportunities at the Wimbledon FCs and Southall and places like that. So they came together and they got Lyric Constantine. Now, do you see a time where that could happen? And we can have some white players in. There's no problem with that. But the whole
so it's not an all-black team then. In fact, if you look at the way football's going, it's already like that. How many? You go to France and look at teams. You don't see many white players. I mean, in some of the teams there.
You're talking about the ownership.
Ownership.
That's what we're talking about. Ownership.
No,
you're talking about ownership.
First of all, you're going to have black people, enough black people with a lot of money. And are there enough black people with a lot of money to be able to do that?
Yeah, we must have them. You got money. Les has got money. Ian's got money. Bernie's got money.
I have enough money to have a non-league Constantine. Yeah, we give the players a little £20 and some orange. The money that you need now to own a football club. The money you need now to own a football club is definitely beyond me, and I'm sure beyond Les. Even in the football league, that's going to be very difficult to then have black people on the board. Or a black businessman being involved, but to then say in terms of ownership, that's going to be very difficult.
Hey, Ernie knows your pocket.
Even if it, I mean, you know, we have the scenario of Choice FM, which was predominantly black owned. I mean, it lasted 23 years. But you know, if we got something that's good, they always come and get it. They always find a way to get it. So let's get one. And do what we got to do, and then take it from there. But you don't see that happening.
No, and I wouldn't want to do that. I can tell you why. Because Ernie, you know about football business, and Troy will know this. Football business is a very dirty business at the top. Very dirty business. When you talk about agents and money and deals, very dirty. And if somebody's going to go to prison, you know, it's going to be the black man. I can tell you so. Any black man don't do that.
There's nothing new there, then.
That's why.
You're Team Chelsea. You think if a black was black, he's still no.
Yeah. John, you mentioned Sudbury Court. I mean, I played at Sudbury Court for a few years, and it was.
You played on the outside pitches, Robbo.
What's I played on the outside pitches?
There were only outside
pitches. You played by the swimming pool.
No, it was right. The pavilion. The pavilion is still standing there, John. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for you. Yeah, that's why I had my time there. But going back to World Cup '98, just a quick one because we like to keep it music. I interviewed you on my show on the BBC, and you came on, and we'll do. Obviously, my show was a reggae show, and we're talking about World Cup. You're saying, yeah, this blah blah blah. You gave your prediction, and then you stopped in the middle of the show, and you said to me, "You think I don't know tune? You think I don't know tune?" Because I was saying to you, "You think this is what's it called? World in Motion, or whatever you want to call it." This man starts to DJ lines from Budger Banton. And I'm like,
you can't say Budger anymore. No, them days are over. You can't I don't know no Budger songs. Never. Who? Did you say?
You were singing them on. You were singing them on the interview. I was like, nah.
Driver.
You.
No,
we get
the interview out.
No. Bob Marley.
Don't you do a bit of rapping for us?
No, just Bob Marley. Conscious lyrics.
Can't you do no rapping for us tonight? Just a little bit of the John Barnes rap.
Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
We all know all the words to that. John, might I ask you a quick question? I mean, you know, apart from when did you stop wearing the shorts too tight? When did you get rid of the curly perm? And on a serious level, as a fan, a football fan at them time, they always used to. When Peter Beardsley came, all of a sudden, all the focus seemed to go on him. Now, latterly, his stock has fallen because of what happened in the youth team. What can you tell me about what happened with you and Peter?
Well, first of all, Peter Beardsley is no different to Kenny Dalglish, John Aldridge, anybody. Any other players I've played with, any other players who played for Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, This is what they said. Peter got caught. Yeah, that's the only difference. Peter got caught. That's the only difference, and this is a different time. So I'm not saying that Peter Beardsley isn't racially biased, but he's no more racially biased than anybody else. When I talk about people think I'm defending racists, I'm not. I'm saying he's exactly like all of you. He's no different. So,
but that does get misinterpreted. That does, and you and I've talked before, and thank you, because we've talked about all sorts of things on the radio, and you've always answered the phone. But that gets misinterpreted, and there are a lot of people that think where there's an issue to do with black people, they roll out John Barnes to talk about it. Does that bother you? Does that concern you?
Well, it does, but what can I do? Because that's the only way. Because I'll give an example. I go on LBC with this Nick Ferrari. And what people feel, because I may have
that's your mate, innit, Eddie?
Views. I have certain views on racial discourse, and not all racial discourse is racist, regardless of what people think. There's certain dynamics between a black and a white guy, a fight, whatever it is, but it doesn't have to be racist, yes, but I decide whether I believe it's racist or not. And in fact, like for example, if you talk about from a sexism point of view, when Aguero put his arm around the linesman because he said no, that was offside, or whatever. People are now talking about that is sexist. And you don't touch the official. And I'm sure that yes, you touch officials because you have players who touch officials all the time. Now, I'm not saying sexism doesn't exist. Of course it does. And is Aguero sexist? Yes, he is. Does he? Not in that instant, but does he feel that a male linesman is better than a female linesman? Yes, he does. Like 99% of us. So the point I'm making is that this is the way we all are. So when you talk about either Peter Beardsley or anybody else, people think I'm defending the fact that I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying Liam Neeson. When Liam Neeson came on, listen, I'll tell you why I had time for Liam Neeson. Because Liam Neeson said he realized, if you listen to what Liam Neeson said, he said, I realized that when I had those feelings to want to kill any black person, I was wrong. I got help. But all people here is want to kill a black man, want to kill a black man. Why I say I like Liam Neeson is because how many white people, they don't want to kill black people. I'm not saying they want to kill black people, but how many of them would cross the road, not serve them a shop, not give them a job, and they're still like that after 20, 30 years? Whereas I've said, if they were like that after 1 week and then realized their mistake, realized they were wrong, got help, but admitted that this is the way I used to be for 1 week, I would say, well done. But they don't do that. They look at Liam Neeson and they go, oh, he's terrible. But we all believe in equality. We don't believe in equality. We don't believe in equality. So that is the issue I have. And unfortunately, what they try and do like on LBC is to get me out to then support a particular situation, which is obviously not, in my opinion, obviously not racist. Like, for example, I'll give you a quick example here. Sorry to go on. There's an example in America where there's a master's degree on pause words, pause sounds in between words. Just bear with me a second. It's a master's degree. So, like we go in English, we'll go, those words that we make when we don't know what to say. In Chinese, in Mandarin, it is N-E-G-A, nega, right? My son's a doctor, he's a plastic surgeon. He has a Chinese partner who works with him, and she's talking to her mother in China, and she's going, nigga, nigga, nigga. It's the pause word. It's not N-I-G-G-E-R. It's a pause word. So in this master's degree course on pause words, he said, in Mandarin, there's a word, not a word, a sound that they say, nigga. The black students got up and walked out, and he got fired. He got suspended. And they said, yes, because he should know they can't say that word. It's not a word. So therefore, I may go on and I may defend that. So what they do is they use instances like that to say, you are now an apologist for racism. And what I always say at the start is that there's systemic racism, there's institutional racism, racism exists. But in this particular case, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. And then people look at me and then say, oh, you're just being an apologist for racism.
Yeah, but I think you allow people to use, because when the phone rings, you can answer it or not. And I think that if people could hear the way you've spoken today and the way that as 6 intelligent men and Robbie have discussed this thing today, then I think they would get a really different idea about you. And to say that you applaud somebody for saying he would kill another person, you can see how that. No, I'm just saying. No, but that's what people took from it.
But that's the way it was reported. I didn't applaud him for saying he would kill a black man. I applauded him for admitting that he was wrong in the way he thought. He knew he was wrong. He got help. He prayed. That's why I applauded him.
Don't answer their phone call anymore, John. As a brother to another brother. When they phone you, just ignore the call like you used to do in the old days when that girl used to phone you.
Yeah, but Eddie, you know, I always answer the phone to her. You know that. But anyway, Eddie, the phone won't ring. If I don't answer it, the phone won't ring. That's the point I'm making. Because I started the conversation as to why am I not on Sky? Why am I doing all of this? Because they're not interested. So therefore, if I don't even use that phone call to then try and put my side across, to then say, yes, that's terrible, but you will not hear me or see me. So when you say don't answer the phone, you will not hear me or see me. So I know that I'm leaving myself open, but I'm hoping that I can get enough out there for people to then be nuanced about it and say, yes, we see what he's saying, but unfortunately, by the time it's then reported and spun and edited, it looks a particular way. But if I don't do that, you will never hear from me.
Well, we will. We will hear from you.
That's why I don't do LBC job.
That's why
I don't do LBC. Can I ask you a question? Oh, Nadine, yes, I saw that.
Well, Nadine put something up. Liam doesn't deserve a medal for that, though. John, what you said earlier on. What do you say on that? Now, Nadine is one of our esteemed young writers. She's just been headhunted, and she's now at the Independent newspaper. So she's moving. What do you say about that?
Right. Now, when you're talking in an interview and it's a throwaway line, what I say deserves a medal. It's like how we're talking here. I'm not saying he should go to the King and get a medal. He should be applauded. And what she actually says, I will acknowledge that he decided to. So, okay, maybe it was the wrong choice of words. And people think, oh, he's saying he should go and get a medal by the Queen. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is he should be applauded for it, commended for it. And I wish more people would do that. Say how they really feel. I want all of them pundits, Gareth Southgate and Roy Keane, everybody to come out and they say, you know, this is really terrible. But you know what? We saw this. We felt the same way. We said the same things. We feel the same way because of how we are being conditioned to think. Because we've been brought up in an environment that then glorifies a particular race over the other because of the systemic racial bias that has been around for 200 years by the best philosophers, the best anthropologists who lied to us about black people being inferior. So we can't help it. But what we do is we point the finger at the little 12-year-old fan and say, he's terrible. Where do you think he learned it from? And how do you think they really feel? That's why I say it's not up to black people to do this. It's up to white people. It's up to don't follow, do what the right thing to do is. Do what the right, because if you then say we're going to put black people in these positions and we're going to do what they say, what did those black people say in that report that came out 2 days ago? There are black people who came out of that report. And then white society is going to go, we didn't say it. They're saying it themselves. There's no institutional racism. And because now we're black, we don't want to believe that. And they're going to go, oh, yeah, you just cherry pick what you want to believe is right. You told us to put black people in to make those decisions. When they did, now all of a sudden you're saying you don't like their decisions. That's why it's better for a white person to actually come out with a proper report. Then you can't play the race card and say they're doing it because they're black.
True. Troy, we mentioned that to I mentioned that to Troy last time. I said, Troy, you got to stop letting them wheel you out, man. Because one of the things with Troy, I recognizing Troy, there were so many incidents, and here's Troy Townsend, and it got to a point where
you're right, Robert. I'm going to say you're right, but I don't do LBC. I don't do Daily Mail. There's parts of my job that I can't ignore. I can't ignore being on those platforms because otherwise we don't have a voice and we don't talk about the incidents, and actually they kind of just wash away. I will say that I'm more picky now. I will also say that I'm not doing the 2-minute soundbite anymore because that's when your words do get mixed up and they take a little soundbite and then use it, and run it on their national headlines. So I'm very conscious of what platforms I go on now and how I speak. I'm on this platform tonight because you know what? You give me the opportunity to speak freely. And I speak freely. I'm not being judged. I'm speaking freely. I'm being honest. The game doesn't like that and doesn't allow you to do that. And like I said, when I was on the Anton Ferdinand doc for 2 minutes, 20 seconds out of 57 minutes, the only part the FA had a problem with was my part when I said that they're not fit for purpose. So this is the problem that you have as a black person when you call the industry figures out, is they start trying to pull stroke on you, and put statements out that actually belittled me, to be totally honest, and dehumanized me. their statement was poor. But this is what the industry does to try and grind you down whilst accepting another black person in the industry, as long as they give them the jacket. You know, you come in, but you got to wear the jacket. And I can't wear the jacket. The jacket will never fit me. So, you know, I'm going to be who I am, and I'll pick and choose who I speak to. But I can't go quiet. And I get what you're saying, but I can't go quiet because there's not enough of us that speak in this space and speak with the kind of intelligence of the game. Sorry. And when I say intelligence of the game, I don't want to be disrespectful. I mean, knowing the game from inside the boardroom, knowing the game from on the pitch, and knowing the game from in the stand. And they're very, very much connected, all those elements.
Well done, Trey. Listen, John, I want to ask you one final question. My final question.
Right? I'm out of here.
Destroyer, just stay for this last question, please.
Oh, the last one. Yeah.
I don't want you to go because we still got a date to fix. John, let me ask you this question. Can I don't know if this is true, right? My old mate, I won't call his name on here. He mentioned that the name, you can clarify this because this could be an old myth. When you were referred to by the Liverpool players as Digger Barnes, was that a way of them saying in a friendly Scouse way, the N-word Barnes?
I was referred to as Digger Barnes from I was 18 years old at Watford. That was my
so there's nothing to do with being
Bobby Barnes. Let me tell you, Bobby Barnes, chairman of the PFL at West Ham, he was called Digger Barnes. Paul Barnes, who played for Ipswich, he was called Digger Barnes because the popular show in the late 70s, early 80s was Dallas, where Digger Barnes was the man in Dallas. Yeah. So I always assumed that they call me Digger Barnes because that's a popular show. However, it may be a coincidence that Paul Barnes, John Barnes, and Bobby Barnes are all black, and we're all Digger Barnes. However, no, it is because of Dallas. It is because of Dallas.
Okay, so it's all right. So that was one of the myths. That was one of the myths we wanted to get out because I was like, I don't think John would want us to call him because that's why I didn't actually call you Digger Barnes.
No,
I thought maybe
everybody calls Digger. Yeah, it's Digger Barnes.
Right, okay.
You're too young to
Shaun,
remember.
thank you very much for coming, Shaun. What are you doing this weekend, Shaun? I'd like to ask you what you're doing. Have you got your earpiece in?
What I'm doing this weekend is, I say, I'm writing my closing speech for this trial I've got. So that's what I'll be doing.
Whoa! Right, well, keep your phone on, Shaun. Keep your phone on.
I will, mate.
John, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a great insight.
We'll get together again.
Definitely. Most definitely. And Troy Townsend, as always. Troy, I'm sorry, it will stay Sizzler Townsend. I got you.
Hold on.
Really find the right tune for Troy.
Huh? No, you know what? It's Saturday. It's Good Friday, right? We don't want to upset.
Well, what one is it? Is it Saturday or is it Good Friday? What one is it?
You that fire, you
that. It would have been so much better if it was my intro, not my outro.
Yeah? We'll find your intro.
Happy to see you go.
Listen, guys, thank you, Edward, thank you, Rodney, thank you, Shaun, thank you, Troy, Daddy Ernie. It's been the Fixture List. It's been real. We'll see you again soon. Peace.
Peace.